Yeah, he's there. Hi, Nihilus.
Hello. I'm
How
on
are
my
you?
even worse mic this time, so.
There you go. What's going on?
Not much. Just kind of, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, why the left tends to be the ones deplatforming nowadays and stuff
Talk to
like
me.
that. Um, I think it's very weird that the left is the type of person that would deplatform because, like, we will try to rehabilitate everybody. Like, there's like literal murderers, rapists, and thieves that we're just like, yeah, we shouldn't put them in prison forever. We got to rehabilitate them and bring them back into civil society and shit like that. But then suddenly, if somebody says the N word like 10 years ago, then like suddenly we got to like nuke them off the internet, even if they say that they'll do better or whatever like that. I think it's very strange that the left has become this sort of organism that will go deplatforming other people when historically it's been the other way around, where like left wingers like Thomas Paine will just get canceled absolutely, and like nobody will even visit his funeral and shit like that.
Well, the crazy thing about it, Annihilist, is I'm old enough to remember when the religious right was a huge influence in American politics, and if you were like anywhere left of that, you were pretty much like censored. You weren't allowed to say certain things in the public sphere, and a lot of people that were like liberals had to fight, to get their, freedom of speech, pushed out there against the religious right. But now that the religious right has been, supposedly defeated, like 10 or 15 years later, it's created a completely different culture.
That's crazy because, like, now liberals aren't the extreme.
Well,
I would. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
I was, I just remembered, like the idea of I guess like this whole the origin of this whole like idea of like hate speech and stuff comes from the idea of like repressive tolerance from like people like Herbert Marcuse and one other guy, Karl Popper, right? And they were talking about,
Karl
it's not
Popper was pro free speech though.
Nobody said that there has to be repressive tolerance, right? Because I don't know if I don't know. There's like a comic that like some
that
leftist
comic
made.
actually misrepresents what Karl Popper actually said.
I know. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I just you'd actually have to read what Karl Popper said, and then you'd actually realize that Karl Popper encouraged like debating ideas, and that only that repressive stuff comes if debate's like not the last option. So basically, at all costs, the left should be able to win their use debate to win people over to their ideas.
Well, I haven't read any Karl Popper, so I'd like to read him, but
conversely, fuck Karl Popper and fuck his open society, and
I'm not a fan of
fuck neoliberals. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not a fan of the open society or neoliberalism. I think
it's cringe.
I think
mostly just not a fan of neoliberalism.
Yeah, not a fan. And people. It's weird, and I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to get into I'm not going to get into like Soros and people like that. So.
Oh yeah, Grimmett
brings
up that
Karl
Popper was also anti-communist as well.
Well, yeah, I know Herbert Marcuse and the Frankfurt School. That's like one of their big things is that there has to be repressive tolerance in order for, because like they consider like ideas like third positionist or any nationalistic ideas to be more than anything what is it there's they not legitimate arguments or not legitimate things to be put in public discourse or something like that.
Well, yeah, but a lot of those people were propped up by the CIA.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of them were propped up because it was the Cold War, and they
they were trying to. Sorry for interrupting, but to answer what you were saying. Yeah, you're right. It's basically they were propped up by the Rockefellers and the people in the Cold War and the United States government and the CIA to basically be some form of liberal form of communism that's kind of an oxymoron, but to be some form of liberal, form of Marxist, neo-Marxist thought that would basically
I would
work
call
against
it post-Marxist because it isn't even Marxist at all. Because see, the whole point of the Marxist dialectic is class struggle. And if you're not
it's
thinking
pure.
about-
It's pure
if
like
you're not thinking
economics.
about the class struggle or the class warfare,
That's not.
then
Well,
it's
it's
not
pure.
even Marxist, because Marxism and fascism were both progressive ideologies. They just viewed what they should do within society in completely different ways. So Marxism was all about class warfare and class society, but fascism was more about the state and class unity. So
Wait, how's that progressive?
because like the way it works is you create a socialist society. So one is internationalist, where you want to use revolution to basically impose dictatorship of the proletariat, and the other one is also revolutionary, but it's nationalist, and it's more about like creating the corporate state and then using the corporate state to further society. And if you go back to like futurism and like the Constitution of Fiume, it mostly was pretty socially progressive compared to Marxist-Leninist at the time, because like in Fiume, they were pro-LGBT, but if you were living in Stalin's Soviet Union, if you were gay, they would just throw you in a gulag. So there's a huge difference between
Imagine
the two.
believing in the immaterial spirit of the
And
state.
the other difference too is
Never
like
been
if you
me.
lived under Stalin, if you were considered a class enemy or just somebody they didn't like, they would either send you to prison, to a work camp, or they would execute you. But if you were like in Mussolini's country and say you were a dissident, you'd get like some black shirts saying, "Hey, don't be writing stuff against the state." And maybe they would just like intimidate you, but they'd never kill you or send you to a work camp. And the funniest part of it is there was like an island where they put gays there, and then the gays ended up raping the guards.
Gays, holy shit.
On today's
that is
episode
kinda
of
funny.
shit I didn't need to know about.
I didn't know that. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, no, like it's crazy because like fascism is like characterized as like really violent, but it's mostly because it's it's less violent than Stalinism, because Stalinism
Stalinism is fascism.
Yeah,
Let's be honest
Stalinism
here.
was more extreme, though, because under Stalinism and under Mao, they didn't care about you as a worker. So if you were a factory worker, you were either living in barracks, and they'd give you, like, breadcrumbs or food. And if you
Really
had
quick, I want to
one
address this really
socialist.
quick. Sorry. To
for
Synth,
it.
he said that I lied and said that you confessed about being clout chasing. You absolutely did. When Alex was asking you how you get on these conversations with Bosch and all those people, you literally said, and Alex could actually vouch for this, that you will go into their chats and you'll start like talking shit so that they get mad, and then you do it like that. So nice try. This guy is so fucking.
Wait,
But
yeah.
the thing is like Germany on comparison was completely different. Germany was more
Yeah.
totalitarian, more violent, and their philosophy was more existentialism mixed
Twitter,
with
go to
racial
Twitter.
science. But Italy was more just like neo-Hegelianism mixed with actualism, and actualism is just the philosophical idea of putting thought into action. So it's kind of like direct action, but it's also very empirical.
Yeah,
and
it was.
very-
It's interesting because F.D. Marinetti, like, he was very anti-traditionalist, right?
Yeah,
like,
he was against tradition. Like
He was.
even I'm not really like, even though I'm a Christian, I'm not really pro-traditionalist either. Like, I think that if a state wants to be
Come on.
progressive, I don't think that reactionary forces should ever get in the way of that.
Can I just talk to Synth for a second? Like, I don't know why. Like, it's okay if you want to admit that you're a clout chasing. Like, I'm totally a grifter. Like, I came on here to start like a conversation about eugenics where nobody asked for it. Like, it's okay. You can just admit it. Like,
You can. Good
I mean,
job,
I-
nihilist.
I can even.
That's not
say-
being a grifter, but it's just being an attention whore. But
Yeah,
anybody who does things
think-
on the internet is by definition an attention whore. So
I just.
And-
I mean, I'm not.
Yes.
Like, I make content.
if you have
on
a
the
YouTube
internet.
channel, you're an attention whore. Yeah.
No,
Yes.
I'm not trying to whore for attention. I just wanna get my thoughts out there more than
Right, but
anything
you want your thoughts to get out to more and more people, correct?
Well, I'm not trying to promote anything really. I
Right,
mean,
but you want to grow. You don't want to stay stagnant and only have like the same 4 people that were watching your videos yesterday didn't watch it
I mean,
today.
I honestly couldn't care if that happened or not. To be
I love
completely
how like
honest.
Stonzo's trying to like poach people from our chat because like now that he's stuck in his little like left wing circle jerk that he is not, he like wanted to be able to talk to right wingers and he decided to go on to with this with Banana's little thing, and I guarantee he like kind of actually regretted it a little bit too because he does like arguing with like fascists and stuff. So yeah, nobody give him that because
Well-
like he should like sit in like what he's do.
Well, we found someone else who will take on the fascists. Oh yeah, that's right. Speaking of attention whores, I am the king, and no one can beat me. I'm the greatest attention whore of all time. I'm whoring the attention right now. All eyes on me. I'm close to the camera.
Sing for
I
us,
mean,
Dylan.
even I can even admit that like I think free speech communities, they're generally like right wing cesspools, and then they generally push people in bad directions. I mean, it's not really your fault since it's kind of like a self fulfilling prophecy because like the left wingers all excise themselves. But you know what? Like while it's here and while it's doing what it does, you know, why not just come in and just promote your own ideas about eugenics or whatever bullshit theories you have? You know, it's very fun.
Yeah, like Destiny even said, like it's always like the left wingers that are pushing people out. Like they don't want to give them any kind of they don't want to give them that space. And you know, I'll admit that like for a while I was like on that too. Like there was I celebrated when Trump got kicked off of Twitter, and
Cringe.
yeah, I did. And then I realized that like okay, this is really it is pushing people into these echo chambers, into like deeper, darker webs. And
Yeah, like QAnon.
Well, you can
yeah,
see in the
it really does. It
mentions-
pushes people, and
And QAnon
you
was a
can-
terrible thing. Like,
you can see in the mentions that like deplatforming, it literally just works.
Yeah.
Like people aren't talking about Trump nearly as much as they were. I mean, it objectively works. And I'm not about that stuff. Clearly, I mean, I've called people retard and advocated for eugenics. So, like, even if I was like trying to deplatform people, I just get myself deplatformed as well. You know?
yeah, deplatforming's not a good thing. I mean, because even when I used to do content as a Marxist-Leninist, there was still like shadow banning, and I'd see like other content creators get comments.
You were an ML?
Comments. Yeah, for a short period of time I was, because I thought class warfare was more viable than class unity.
Sorry, I didn't mean to pose it like that, like it was some big
no,
guy.
it's fine.
No, you know, we just met recently, so.
I
used to be a right libertarian.
I still think that like there's some merit to dialectical materialism, but I don't think it should be the be all end all of ideology. Like I don't think it should be like the king of ideas, because I do think that endless class warfare is actually pretty harmful, and it causes a lot of innocent people to get killed, and that's why I don't really support Stalinism. And I do hope somebody can like to completely destroy infrared on some of those arguments. I know he'll just say, "Oh, those are liberal abstractions," and you can't say these. And you know, yeah, there is abstraction.
Listen, I understand people have a problem with him in some of his positions, but I cannot bring myself to not like infrared. That guy is funny as shit.
He's so
like,
funny.
I want to have that much energy. I want to be able to like go that fucking hard on people.
Yeah,
like
he's totally
I understand
wrong on
why
some of
he's
his
popular,
positions, but he's popular because he is charismatic and entertaining.
Did you guys watch the Socialism Done Left debate? That was so funny. Oh my god!
No,
I was
holding the mic the whole time.
No, I went out with a group of friends the other day, and I was like, guys, I want to like get versed on this guy. Like, I gotta know about him if I'm gonna ever like try to talk to him about something. And I watched it. I'm just sitting there. We're literally get takeout. I'm sitting there rolling on the floor, laughing my ass off because I just heard this guy. You have no idea what you're talking about, you fucking idiot! And I'm like laughing my ass off in front of everyone around me. And they're just like, "What the hell are you watching?" And I'm like, "Shut up!" He's calling him a soy boy cuck. Okay, need this.
Hey, use that tactic when you debate right-wingers then.
That's what I do. I mean, like, I try my best to, like, posture.
Well,
I'm
it's
not
important to understand
Okay,
the
hold
reason
on
why.
one second.
Yes, I want to be able to address chat as they're coming as well, you guys. So, like, just let me get to some of these. But from the DJ saying, all I ever hear from PP is I'm the victim. The only time, okay, for people that are saying that, things like that, we're always on defense. Like, we're not seeking any of this stuff out. We, like, are, every time we're doing something like this, yeah, we're defending ourselves. That's all. Like, we're not freaking.
I'll end all you motherfuckers.
We're not playing the victim. We're literally under attack. So we are having to defend ourselves. But like, yeah, we don't want to seek any of this kind of drama. We don't want people like coming after our platforms. But yeah, we're gonna have to defend ourselves, and we're gonna have to tell people where to go because we are constantly having to deal with this shit. So it's not that we're the victim. We are under attack. So
yeah, it's just mass deplatforming because we live in a world where we're not really allowed to, like, as long as you're not like Fed posting trying to do like things that are like against TOS, no one should like have their stuff deplatformed or taken down.
Yeah, I think
as long as it's not illegal, you shouldn't be taken down, honestly.
Yeah.
It's very strange how there's this paradox of like the generally pro rehab left supporting things that are objectively effective, like cancel culture. I mean, it seems to push people into this sort of like NazBol Vortex territory occupied by like third positionists. And I know it's like a bunch of buzzwords that I just threw out here,
right.
But like it is kind of concerning that like people like Brittany, like I'm sorry, but this is very concerning that you're gonna say that you're gonna get pushed to the right ideologically by the actions of some people on the left. Like, wouldn't you want to be pushed to the right by some of the right wingers' ideas, not by the mean actions of people on the left?
Except I would say that like she's being ideologically like repulsed by their actions, and I can completely understand that. Like, I think that's like a lot of people like have a problem with this like sort of concept of the people that were pushing for free expression and protesting and all that sort of stuff. The second that they get into like ideological power, they immediately like clamp down and try to maintain the monopoly on it, which is, I understand it, I guess. And maybe like, once they go back to actually being underdogs and maybe like people who are like, opposed to them now that they have like this power, that they'll, try to go back to that, I guess. I don't know. Some people like just being in the underdog category.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying there's nothing principally left wing about cancel culture. Like, I think it's just like
it wasn't left wing at all, because like I said, me being 35 years old, I remembered when the religious right were the original cancel culture.
I'm sorry to call you out, Brittany, but it's like kind of intellectually lazy to move right just because like the people in power currently happen to be like more sympathetic to liberals. Like, it seems like what would happen if you adopted this sort of mindset is like whoever's in power, you would just like move to oppose them. So like once the right wingers get in power, like it's not like they'll stop doing their own.
Oh, come on, that's a ridiculous argument. Stop. That has nothing.
Yeah, wait, like
come on, it's not about opposing. I'm not sitting here opposing Biden or doing
came from me reading books.
Wait, no,
as someone on the far left,
right now with this
books are cringe.
Like,
can I say something? As someone on the far left,
Dylan?
I understand.
No,
why
Dylan.
people...
Dylan.
Let me respond to this.
No attention, whore.
Keep interrupting. No. Okay. So when I'm not sitting here opposing Biden, I haven't even really been paying attention to a lot of that stuff. But there are issues that I have moved to the right on that had nothing to do with all this drama. But when this has happened as well, with all this like bullshit that I'm dealing with these guys, they're almost like confirming that I'm going to keep moving right because I don't want anything of what they're selling. I don't want this. Like they've lost their fucking minds. They are so just looking for anything that they could freaking bitch about. It's just once like they're just constant complaining about things and the rules keep changing, and they get mad at people for not being able to keep up with all the new rules that they're changing. It's just, I don't know, I could see why people are getting repulsed by it.
Oh yeah, I mean that kind of behavior can only like last for so long before there's pushback against it, and that's what a lot of these people don't understand is they get really cocky because they're in a position of power, but that the power isn't something that's infinite. I mean, you could be a strong man like Stalin, and then look at what happened right after him, and just look at what happened after Mao died. These you could be in these positions, but it's not a long-lasting position. People.
Well, I think that like because I think Destiny was like one of the people. Like again, I kind of bring him up because I think he's
right. He created the culture.
He kind of and he also was like a big proponent of like removing people off of platforms, especially if he didn't like them, stuff like that. And then like when it happened to him, suddenly he's like, well, we actually have to have like a very. I think that's like only viable up until like people like everybody gets it. Now there are going to be some people like Dylan Burns who have absolutely no spine that will like always back down to any sort of thing. I think Brittany and Todd are doing a good job of just like saying fuck you to anybody who tries to browbeat them into doing things their way. I think that's probably a lot more viable in the future. It's just also going to like attract a lot more like angry people reeing at you, and you just kind of have to weather that.
Yeah, you have to.
It's something we've dealt with in general, like where last night Sanzo tried to act like this is just like about money or something. We had Facebook groups that were like this, and I would get, and the Pogstone is literally in the chat talking about basically what I'm going to say, but I would get a lot of shit from lefties because I wasn't kicking out certain right-wingers, and I had, a really, really open space for people. And so there was no profit or anything. We weren't even streaming. We weren't doing anything. Like, I just had a space for people that they could be. And they didn't like that. So the lefties would try to shut us down. And it's just been happening at every step of the way. And I just haven't, like, the more they do that, the more they tell me what to do, the more they tell me how to moderate, the more I want to say fuck off. Like, the more I will literally reject anything you say. Like, don't tell us how to do this.
So. Yeah, but even in other circles, like Sultanas tried to get canceled by people in his community because there were certain people that didn't like that he didn't promote books like Siege and was doing, the crazy stuff that they were into, and they tried to deplatform him. So it happens everywhere. Like, every community tries to deplatform people if they don't fall in line with, and that's why, he got, like, in one of my streams, he was just so pissed. He's like, fuck ideology. People should just get off that high horse.
Yeah, there's something I wanted to say for a minute here that I'm gonna say now. So without further ado, so basically, I don't know. We were talking about, like, Brittany saying there, she's repulsed by the actions of the people on the, like, far left here, and I'm quite inclined to agree, because, like, to an extent I agree that it's, like, intellectually, like, not lazy, but it's like a contrarian reactionary position to, like, disavow everything the left does because of their attitudes, but it's kind of understandable because I feel like, especially with politics like this, it's super closely tied to, like, actual philosophy, and I feel like a lot of, like, the tactics are more so, like, it's more of, like, a political warfare thing than anything to try and convince people to go one way or the other. And I don't know, I generally try to stay away from that. So
I think it's understandable, but once you get into the territory of saying stuff like, I'll mainly let in right-wingers into my VIP channel, it just implies that you think that there's, like, something morally better about right-wingers that will make you more open to their ideology based on who they are and how nice they've been to you, rather than the ideas themselves. And
it's more that they're less likely to fuck your shit up.
Yeah, well, yeah, Nihilist, the thing is like, that's an explicit bias, but it comes from a place of, like, actual experience with the community that surrounds, right? So, like, now we have to,
people
like,
trying to shut us down, and the right's not doing that. That right, listen, I went through this in her Facebook group real quick. 16-year-old, hold on. I went into her. I went into her liberal group, right? And I wasn't supposed to. And I jumped into this fucking liberal group, and it was like 10-on-1. And I don't give a fuck. I'll take whatever odds people want to do. And I went to war with him, and everybody, he's a Nazi. He's this. And I'm like, and it started, and it's funny how her and I are fucking left in this whole crew together. And it's only making us stronger. So keep fucking doing. Keep fucking. Oh, yeah, it's probably my phone. They're probably fucking lagging me out.
Yeah,
it's about the thing, Annihilus. It's about people that are actually willing to protect a space that I'm giving them, and I think that is what kind of matters. Like, I'm literally trying to give people a space where they can have these kind of conversations and not have to like worry about things. And when people are actively trying to shut that down because they don't like what other people are saying, then maybe they shouldn't be in this space. And so when they're not in the space, then they just try to shut us down completely because I wasn't, like, bowing to their demands on who's allowed to be in this space. So even when I did, like, give in to some of these, like, demands and get some of this under control, that's not good enough. It's not good enough because they want to make sure that none of these voices are around. They want to make sure that they are not allowed to speak, and I'm not listening to it, and so they don't like that. So this is the only thing that they can do. And so for me to sit there and say that, I'm going to give right-wingers the space, like, first, and I actually had to do this before too. I had a right-wing group because of this very thing, and I handpicked liberals, and now it's like I'm having to go through this exact same thing. But for me to say that, I'm going to give right-wingers the space, and the liberals I trust because it is the liberals that are doing this. So that's what it is.
Well, I mean,
yes.
it's just purity testing. And it's not like right-wingers are just going to be so tolerant just by their nature. I mean, we know a lot of people on this server, if they got their way, like, they would make it illegal to be gay. So I mean, I just want you to be careful when you're considering considering how your ideology interacts with what you see in the server.
But I don't think you have to be put in one box. I could I can have certain views on certain topics that are not going to be like all in line with what the right wingers or what the left wingers are. Like, I'm going to have mixed views, and the way our politics are, like, I think that's fine. Like, I'm not going to be in this cult mentality where every single thing I have to agree with one side.
Oh, sure. I mean, of course, I agree with you. I mean, like, I literally advocated eugenics. That's going to be my card, like, my not a bad person card, right?
I was going to say, there's the eugenics guy.
Yeah, so, like, that's me. It's not like I'm, like, playing just team politics or something. But I just want you to be aware of that. And I think, well, I don't think you're necessarily doing anything wrong. I just, want to just call attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's like an important thing to think about here too, which is like I've always thought this way, especially with the like advent of all of this like deplatforming shit going on. I don't know why. Like, I want to bring more people like literally on the left who are not gonna fuck shit up into this community, like, because I always get shat on. They're like, "Oh, you're a shit debater." It's like, yes, that's true. Okay, if you can do such a better job, please come take over. Like, come on.
But yeah, you're also just kind of fresh in the debate game, and you'll get better over time.
Exactly, and that's what these platforms are for too. Like,
they can talk all that crap about you, but it's just you're new to this stuff, and over time, give it a year or two, and you'll be kicking ass once your arguments become strong.
Right. Like the thing is though is like I hope to get better at this, but like honestly, if I'm that shit at it, like please, like, and you think I'm shit, please take over. Like, don't leave me to be the punching bag.
You're not shit at it. I think your positions, like for some of the debates, it's like you end up like setting some of them up where you haven't really thought like about whose position is what, and so you end up agreeing on shit. That's why I think sometimes like panels are better for you, Dylan, because you don't have to be so firm in like your positions.
The thing with
set up though, is you have to think of it like you're a fighter. So, like when you're an up and coming boxer, you want to start with the tomato cans before you get to the heavy hitters.
Right. The thing is like my big issue with that is everyone who's tried to like every debate I've been in, like the last 3 have been just thrown at me.
Wait,
with, like,
I don't understand. Why are people saying that Tom got banned? I don't think Tom got banned for anything in the chat. I don't know what we're talking about here. I did ban Synth. He's out of here. And I'm kind of leaning towards banning a couple people that are just here, like that are not really wanting to be here. But oh god, did B. Heller finally got his revenge? I think.
I mean,
Heller did that. That's funny. Okay.
I also want to appeal to like the left wingers in the audience. Like, instead of trying to get this place banned, like, you realize if this place is just crawling with right wingers, that's the perfect place for you to be irresponsibly platformed and like show yourself to all the right wingers. Like if you have to look at the audience here. If the audience here is full of right wingers, that means there's more people for you to move over than would happen if you simply just deplatformed all of them.
Yeah, because when you deplatform them, you're going to send them back to their echo chambers, and they're not going to hear your views.
Yeah,
you're basically taking them away from hearing your perspectives, and because they're not going to hear you, because I'm the kind of person who never really stuck to any kind of ideology on my political journey until more recently, because I never really, all I knew it was just that government was corrupt, and I guess for most of my life I would be an anarchist. But over time, I kind of leaned more towards where I'm at through reading books and researching things and just hearing people out on different perspectives. And even now, I mean, I'm willing to hear people out on what they have to say. I'm not going to be that kind of person where, oh, if I disagree with you, I'm going to silence you. Because then what happens is, when you push people out, they're going to find their own groups, no matter how hard you suppress something. Because, like, even when you see something like Antifa trying to silence or shut down fascism, there's still going to be people that are going to form their groups and appear. So you can't just completely, like, even when you have like these authoritarian societies like the Soviet Union or China under Mao, they try to stop things through violence and force, and even then they couldn't stop certain things. So you just have to, like, I hate to sound like a liberal here because I'm not. I'm pretty anti-liberal in my worldview, but you have to have you have to have the marketplace of ideas in these platforms so these people don't, turn to more radical stuff. And if you're afraid of these people being radicalized, you have to have this open space of discussion, or people will go to more radical and crazy groups.
That's
true. Yeah, for
that's true, but like we're both radicals.
Yeah.
For left-wingers, just be like me, show your own ideology, grow your audience, and wallow in the accusations of hypocrisy. I mean, I've been called a fascist, I've been called a neoliberal. It's so good. It's good fun.
Or drama. That's always a good way to do it, too.
Brittany calls me a neoliberal.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to head off now. It was really nice talking with you guys. I didn't really say that much as usual. I don't know why I hop onto these things, so I barely say anything, but I don't know. I'd like to be on more panels, maybe get some debates in. That'd be fun. I don't know. Maybe we could set that up. I don't know. Yeah, but see ya. All right, bye.
Peace.
You talk more than usual.
But at the end of the day, that's all I really am, is just a very radical centrist. I mean, if people really wanted to, understand where I stand on the spectrum of things.
I definitely stand on the spectrum.
Well, that's where I was diagnosed at one point in my life.
Yeah, there we go.
That, along with some other things, but...
I'm sure the chat would agree with you. I'm on that spectrum as well.
Based, let's go.
Yeah.
Brittany.
Seriously, fuck racial superiority, autism superiority. Let's go.
Do you want to talk about your Brittany being red-pilled on immigration? I mean, I sent a text wall to Brittany explaining my position on it, but she never
got a chance.
I feel offended.
It was a lot of shit to read, and I don't have time for all that.
I mean, if you guys want to pivot, we could pivot to your position on it if you want.
Well, why don't you get into what you sent me then first?
Oh, so you basically your argument is that automation is coming for our jobs. So if we don't limit the amount of people in the country by the time automation comes, then we'll have this apocalyptic hell world, And first of all, I don't see the dichotomy between letting new immigrants in versus pushing people out. But
Wait, what do you mean? Well, you don't. So, okay, pushing but I didn't say anything about pushing people out.
Well, yeah, but the same argument leads to that conclusion, right? If you're simply worried about the number of people in the working class, that there will be too many workers for the amount of jobs because they're all being automated away, your natural conclusion is that less workers will necessarily be good. But that's not really the case. I mean, it seems to be the case that if you take workers out of the economy, there's just less workers for the capitalists to exploit. So they're gonna. So the owners will leave as well. So you'll have equilibrium either way.
No, but what we're doing is we're most of the immigrants that we're bringing in are very low skilled workers, which is I guess okay right now, but they will be automated, and then they will be living here, huh?
How fast do you think they'll be automated away? Because within one generation,
10 years, I'm guessing, over time.
Yeah, because within one generation, if we play our cards right, all their children will hopefully get a better education. And if we gear our economy towards getting a better education, then they can actually move on to these jobs that won't be automated away as fast.
Yeah, plus Brittany, there's always stuff to be done in society. So whether it's construction or paying for infrastructure.
Yeah, this is all the stuff that's going to be getting automated.
Well, that's not necessarily true, considering how many of these jobs require physical and manual labor, and how we're very far away from actual robots coming through.
I don't know if we are because it seems like it's already happening. But I'm saying a job that maybe took 15, 20 people, you're gonna have one person. So yeah, there'll still be somebody that is running the machine.
Chattel slavery for robots.
Well, the thing is I mean, we've already had that for a while now, right? If you're talking about things like construction, where a job that would take 10 guys to carry a giant piece of construction, I don't know, wood or roofing or whatever around, we have already a bunch of machines to do that for us. The thing is there will always be work to be done no matter how you slice it, right? So people need to fill these jobs one way or another. This goes with everything. If there's more kids,
no, you're wrong.
You're wrong. No,
Yeah, we already have like robots making 3D printed homes right now.
Yeah, they can 3D print a home. One fucking truck comes, laser puts the mortar, and again, you'd have to know what construct. Am I cutting out? Wow. Yeah, my Obama phone.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I mean, just cut it out, but you're fine.
Yeah. I'm gonna switch devices. I'm saying
It's
that we're not far. I'm saying that she's absolutely right, but I don't want to get into my immigration. I have a 3-tier one that I feel is pretty unbeatable, but I'll wait till I debate somebody. But yeah, it's here already.
Okay, but the thing is it's still going to take time to make this affordable. Like,
it's
this is
here
going to be
already.
No, to make it affordable. If you're talking about 3D printing a house, that's expensive.
That's right. I don't get employees.
No, the 3D printed home is like
right.
I think $7,000, like 7,000 for like a 1-bedroom like little like it's a weird like concrete spiral pattern thing, but like they're super cheap.
Right, but like the thing is we still have to get into the whole process of like making this like a national thing that everyone has, access to. Like the thing is it's not really like a mainstream thing in practice yet, right? So like there's going to come with it a big market associated with it, and building houses based around the fact that we have now 3D printed. This is going to alter the housing market. So we have to look at the way that this is going to alter things. And then eventually, if this becomes like the main way of constructing homes, then there's going to be a gradual shift to that. And first we have to get there, though, which we haven't done that yet.
But
Plus, what you're saying is
We're still ways away. We're still ways away.
Yeah, what you're saying is like a self-fulfilling prophecy, though, because if you like limit immigration and create a shortage, like labor shortage on purpose, what do you think is going to happen?
But we're not creating are we in a labor shortage? Because I think the labor shortage we have is for high skilled workers.
No, what our employment's like 3%, which is like under the natural unemployment rate. Like the general idea.
Don't lie. It's not.
Well, I mean, our current unemployment rate's also exacerbated by fucking COVID restrictions. Yeah, so like I don't know if those are numbers that are like naturally
we lost 40 million jobs with COVID.
Yeah, but like the point is, like, if you create an artificial labor shortage by limiting immigration, what do you think is going to happen to those jobs that can no longer be filled by real humans? They're going to be automated away. So you're actually just expediting the process of automating jobs by not allowing immigrants to come in. Like, this is.
Are you following what you're saying?
No, wait, okay, this is going to happen whether you do that or not. I think there are ways to slow down automation, like the whole, taxing.
You're going to be a Luddite?
I'm sorry, what?
You're going to be a Luddite to slow down automation on purpose?
Well,
I mean, you can go into policies that would, like, tax the people who are doing that. Yeah, like
I got a great idea, guys. Oh,
that would be
boy.
taking the jobs, and then you use that money to like train people that might be displaced.
Yeah,
those are ways that you can kind of slow things down and like help with the process of it. But it's coming, it's happening. Like this is definitely going to happen, and if we don't prepare for this, a lot of people are going to be hurting, and we're bringing in a lot of people that are automatically going to be hurting.
Okay, yeah, but you could tax the ownership of the machines, or you could just give control of the machines themselves to the workers. I mean, one of the huge problems here is that the working class doesn't have control of the machines. So whatever work that the machines do, all of that value is going to go to the capitalists, and it's going to get stuck into their.
We just talked about taxing it, dude. You got to pay attention to what we're saying.
Wait.
That's
We're
like
talking
a
about taxing though.
Policy. That's like a bandage
Can I say
policy.
something?
How is it a bandage policy if you tax them like the same rate to like use it to like train new workers?
Wait, if we're taxing the shit out of the machine though, like then we're still socializing the economy so as that money's going back to like contributing to government funded programs and things like that. Like,
if it's for job training, like dude, like just because you like regulate capitalism doesn't stop it from being capitalism.
And you don't want to be bringing in like literally the very people that you're going to have to take care of. Like it's one thing if we have our own people that we have to take care of because of that. But why are we actively everybody that's coming in are people that we are going to end up having to take care of?
Wait, I just want to address something from my question first. Can I?
What? Yeah, sure.
Thank you. So like the thing is if you're talking about like a regulation to capitalism, like you're not like really disagreeing with what I agree with because like I'm a reformist, so like that's a good thing. But eventually speaking,
well, you want to like reform it so that there's no private ownership of property.
At all.
I'm not a big fan of that. No. So
well, the thing is like the issue with
we can agree on like regulation on businesses like when they automate people out of jobs, but that doesn't mean that I will let them be like, no, actually private property is bad. Like
okay, but like a net benefit to the like actual people of the country would be getting them the actual like capital and wealth produced by the machine so they can profit.
No, they would have the fact that they get this automated out of their jobs handled by the state helping them to gain new skills so that they can re-enter the job market with new skills.
Right, so they could re-enter the job market, but gradually, like, this goes along with the whole trend of it, like, again, with the innovation, jobs are just going to get automated away more and more. Like even high-skill jobs like doctors, they're finding ways to automate away.
No, that I don't think we have automated doctors yet.
Don't yet, but they're getting there. And the technology. If you want to talk about
what technological advances are you talking about specifically?
They did surgery on a grape.
Yeah, they have like brain surgery.
They made surgery. Wait, did they do surgery? Like, did a robot with AI do surgery on a grape, or did a human surgeon do surgery with machinery?
Right, they did wait. So the thing.
So which one was it?
It was it was a human with the robot. I'm just
okay. So that's not automation,
right? The thing is they're still going to find a way to gradually automate this away. Like they can code fucking anything at this point. So I don't see like
you literally can't. Like it's not yet anyway.
Wait, no, they're going to do it no matter how you slice it, and it's like stupid to think that they won't.
Well, then you should be able to actually name an example, but you try to pass off like, oh well, human using machinery is automation. Like no, it fucking isn't, dude.
Wait, I could totally look into this right now, and I'm sure I can find some shit on it because I know they're working on it in China. I heard something about that a while ago. But the thing is we're talking about this like theoretically, which I am, and I get you want to like actually have me meet the burden of proof or whatever first. But the thing is like, regardless of how this goes, it would be a net benefit to make it so that literal private capital owners, like, just fucking sit there and accrue and hoard wealth as a process of, like, machines producing all of the, like...
I just said I was pro-taxation, dude.
Right, so so like, what are we going to do from there? People are still going to starve. How much are we going to tax the machines?
Wait, how are they going to starve if, are they going to starve because they don't have a job? We just established that we're going to tax people so that they're able to get education to do new jobs.
So then you're still socializing the economy. Like, that's no matter how you say it.
Just because
we're reforming it.
Listen,
that's a part of socialism.
You should understand this meme by now. You should understand this meme by now. Just because the government does things doesn't mean that's socialism. Just because the government regulates things doesn't mean it's still not capitalism.
Right. So the thing is when you use the like actual machine. So first things first, what are we going to do in a period of time while people are getting re-educated or doing whatever they're doing, re-education?
What do you mean?
So like,
re-education. Hold on.
No, if their job gets taken from them, how are they going to survive? I want to know this right now.
Yeah, like federal job training programs would also probably include a stipend to cover their expenses until they get a new job.
Okay, so how much is that going to cost? Because keeping people alive costs a damn lot of money. And
ideally, you would tax the entirety of the amount that they're saving on automation by firing a person and hiring a robot to.
Okay, so then that'd be like.
Oh my goodness! Can you let me fucking finish?
I don't know because it's pretty fucking stupid. And no one wants to hear what
it's really fucking stupid. I know, but try to listen, please. It's really not too hard. Right. So.
I like that line.
Yeah, okay, buddy. So you go and you tax the employers that have automated out their jobs, and you pay that to the workers until they're able to get education towards getting a new job, and then they get the new job, and then they don't have to pay that tax anymore.
Well, that relies on the idea that you will be able to tax them more. But if all the jobs are being automated away and then the capitalists are getting
no job is going to be fully automated away.
So then who's working at this point? Like, if these people have their jobs automated away, what are they going to do? Stand there and crank a lever all day and get paid for, like...
Technicians that are running the robots, people who are overseeing, making sure everything is running away, people who are troubleshooting the automation.
Okay, so how many...
People who are now having new jobs handling and maintaining the automation, people who are creating new automation concepts.
Right. So the reason we have automation is to get people out of the workforce in the first place. So no matter how you slice it,
it's to make labor more efficient.
It's making labor more efficient, and it's also getting capital owners to get people out of the workforce that they wouldn't have to pay otherwise, so they can save money on like literally having machines do the job.
How do you literally establish that there would be a policy in place to tax them until they actually manage to get like their workers to have new jobs? Okay,
so then why would a capital owner want to like actually like do anything with the machine?
Because eventually in the long run, it's still going to be more efficient and more cost effective.
It's going to be more efficient, but it's not going to be more cost effective if it's more fucking money.
They're not going to have to pay for these people for their entire lives just until they can manage to find new employees.
Do you know how long it takes to get retrained for a new job?
Oh, like 5 years.
Right. That's a ton of time.
Like, let me ask this question.
You understand that businesses look more than like 5 years in advance in some of their planning, right? Like they're not just like animals that are only interested in like the very short-term moment, right?
How are you going
to... Okay, so they're planning ahead, but then it's going to become more expensive in the long run if you just fucking, have to pay for people to be your baggage for 5 years. Companies like don't even make it to 5 years a lot. Like, come on, that's a long time. All that happens in 5 years.
The companies that are going to automate away 40% of their workforce aren't able to think 5 years ahead. Are you serious, dude?
The thing is, with all this automation stuff, we are heading towards a lot more socialism.
A lot of the automation is happening.
Right, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Well, we are likely heading towards where we're going to have to help a lot more people.
But I want to interject with something.
Wait, hold on really quick. But like, the thing is, we're bringing in more people that we would need to be helping, and they're not going to be generating the kind of income where we're going to be able to help them. So we need to stop bringing in so many of these low-skilled workers and start bringing in people that are actually going to be like pumping money into the economy, so we can help the people that we will need to help.
Yeah, and see, like Flamenco, what you're advocating for is very similar to what's already on New Frontiers platform, as Bill Cooper is saying in the chat. So everyone's from my side is joking that you're a closet third positionist. So they're going to
closet what?
A closet third positionist. So they're going to be like, hey,
there's some third positionist takes that I'm not like too opposed to be honest. I don't really have like a diehard like ideological basis for my or ideological like platform specifically.
But the thing I was going to say about automation is North Korea gets around that by just not automating or using technology for every job. So all these rural workers are still using like.
Well, anybody who decides that they don't want to work that job also gets sent to re-education camps. So
yeah, but they also have closed borders, so that's kind of why it's easy for them to be a socialist.
And like they can't even like have food for their people. So
wait, we're done on this topic though, guys. Come on, don't take that from me.
I mean, part of that is like Juche has this weird fucking like fetishization of farming, like
and the military.
North Korea sits on like a really usable like mineral deposit that they could totally use to like enrich their own people, but they don't fucking do it. They just farm in like these dirt patches that literally can't sustain the crops that they're trying to do.
How do you plan to raise the taxes if the capitalists are gaining more and more power every time they automate jobs away? How do you explain then?
How do you explain the successful closing of multiple pipelines in the U.S. and Canada, despite the oil lobby being like one of the largest influencers in Washington?
Doesn't stop them from building it through Indian reservations, though.
No, they literally shut down those pipelines.
Because democracy still has power in America, but that will always be the case if you continue to let the capitalists accrue power.
At what point are we going to get to that, though? I'm curious. Like, what's the threshold?
I don't know. We're starting to get
there. It's going to accelerate if we let them collect all of the profits from machines. Like, that's the big problem I'm trying to raise here.
I mean, look at what Amazon's doing, for example.
If the machines are like literally, doing all the work, And either you're going to get to a point where there's no incentive for capital owners because they're getting taxed the shit out of. We have to pay to make sure these workers can survive, which is like socializing the economy.
But they're not going to be paying a lot of workers now that they're having machines.
It's not indefinite.
No, if they're
able to find a new
We're talking
job.
about the transition away from having these jobs, okay? So you're going to have to support the working class somehow to make sure they can survive. Right. So either there's going to be one thing or another. Either these capital owners are just going to stop fucking doing it because there's no point for them to, like, you know, actually accrue the wealth that comes from the machine.
There is a point because eventually it does lead to more efficient labor.
Okay, so it's more efficient at that point, but then they're not collecting profits to support and sustain their company, so there's no incentive for them to do it anymore.
How are they not sustaining profits? Again, this would only
the entirety of the workforce.
Yeah, exactly.
To survive.
Yeah, but they still they pay for their workforce already, and they're able to turn profits. Like that's like they're not like
they pay for their wages.
They pay the exact same amount of money, but somehow they wouldn't have the ability to pay their workers.
So now they've got to pay for machines and people. Machines and people.
Yeah, machines don't require wages.
Hey, Brittany.
They don't require wages, but they have an initial cost, which is going to be great on the company.
No, it's not. They're going to make so much money because of the machines. That's why we're going to have to tax them more.
So how do you buy the machines in the first place, Britt? How do you pay them off?
They have the money, obviously. These are people who are like already rich.
So no, you're actually getting to the correct point then. Why would they do it? Because eventually automation will get to the point where it's cheap enough that it's more viable for them to eat the cost of still paying their workers and then also buying the automation and helping their employees get retraining for what they need to get new jobs and still have the robots.
Time away.
I have a yes or no question.
I don't know if it's that far away, honestly. Like it just matters. It's just a matter of like how more efficient that they are than the actual workers.
Yeah, but everything requires a transitionary stage, and if this is the
exactly
stage, we're at the ass beginning of it. Like we're at the ass beginning of it. So like it's still going to take some time to do it.
I don't even know if we're in the ass beginning of it. We're already at the point where like the Fight for 15 crowd get automated kiosks opened up in McDonald's in New York. So I don't know.
Hey,
that's the thing. Like we've done that. That's like the low skill aspect. The thing I'm more concerned with is like when we get everyone, like, all of the initial laborers like out. So like maybe there's going to be a point where the McDonald's has one guy controlling the machines like a goddamn arcade, playing with the joysticks and shit. Scooping your McDouble.
What are people going to do if everything's automated? Like, what are people going to do with their time? Because, like, you're going to have, like, more spare time. Like, it's like, I'm a person who has a lot of spare time on my hands. I'm a person who has a lot of spare time on my hands. That's why you see me in places like, dude, that's why I'm a YouTuber, obviously.
Dude, I would absolutely love to be able to, like, be fully funded by the government shitposting and making bad videos on the internet. But I don't even know if we're going to get to that point just yet. But I think that it's fully feasible for a transitionary period and where you have high taxation to help cover the people who are displaced by the automation. And if you set that up as a policy, then it should be a fairly viable way of maintaining people's standard of living, while at the same time automating labor and making it easier for people to access goods, I would say.
Yes or no question. Do you think capitalists are gaining more power relative to the working class or not? And if so, then
yes.
how do you propose high taxes if the capitalists have all the power?
One, we've already established that they don't have all the power because the oil lobby is one of the biggest financial lobbies in the United States, and we've had multiple pipeline shutdowns that
are they gaining power? Are they gaining power generally, or are they losing power to the working class?
I don't know if I can answer that question specifically. I know that like the overall method of financing in the United States, or the overall like method of lobbying in the United States, is less money than like the total annual collection of like peanut sales in the United States. It's like it literally is small peanuts in terms of how much actually goes into like political lobbying for all of like the talk of dark money and shit like that. I forget like the specific study on that. I could look it up though and send you guys later.
Still bad. End that bitch ASAP.
Yeah, this is the point. Like, we're trying to look into the future to see like how the jobs will be taken away and how fast. We're not even able to like acknowledge that capitalists are generally gaining power. Like, when it
again, I
versus the
would
working
like, what's
class.
the standard
Like,
that you're establishing that at, though?
have you seen Jeff Bezos? He's going to be a trillionaire. Like,
Okay.
it's pretty obvious.
So
that
Jeff Bezos is a successful businessman. That means that they have more and more influence in American politics.
You know, apparently boomers have at the same point in time for their generation as the millennials have now, they had quadrupled the amount of wealth at the same stage of their life.
Well, a lot of that also came from like an economy that was slightly a light version of corporatism during the New Deal, where you had like stronger unions and better pay for workers and cheaper prices and everything. And once that stuff was like dismantled through neoliberalism,
why was it dismantled?
Well,
it was
like a lot of the
because we allowed the capitalists to retake power. So we have to destroy the capitalists first before they can do it.
Whoa! Destroy! Whoa! Where are we getting? Where are we going there, buddy?
But I was going to explain something really quick though, because the whole neoliberalism thing started with people like William Buckley, because William Buckley started kind of pushing that, but it didn't become mainstream until Ronald Reagan became president, and then it's just been a downward spiral ever since then, and it's been a shit show. Because me and another guy who wrote an article about this on the homeless crisis, we were talking about that on one of my YouTube shows, and yeah, no, the capitalist class, they are enemies. They have no interest in anybody in a country. Like, they don't care about people. They're all about profits and accumulation. They don't support any kind of ideology. That's why in one country they could support like woke, liberalism, but then in another country they could support someone like a Pinochet type figure. I mean,
the only thing they support is capitalism.
Exactly.
Yeah. But one thing I wanted to say before we move off this subject is like, look, my biggest concern is the actual transitionary stage itself, and that's like the thing that I feel like is important to factor into. So when I'm talking, what like I think is the best transitionary stage to talk about here, again, is like in some aspects socializing the economy. I'm concerned though that when you like either turn over ownership of the means of production to the worker, or you just, tax the shit out of the capital owners, there's going to lose incentive to do what they're doing. But I like the point that you made when you said, well, what if there's like incentive in the long run, which is a point I'm going to have to reflect on more because I haven't really thought about that one yet. So like the thing that I have to think about here before we move on is, generally speaking, it would be, I guess it would be better for my angle if we just worried about, giving the means of production to the worker for now. There's a lot of other. This is a whole nother debate.
The thing is like worker-owned companies can happen in any kind of economy. Because even in Mussolini's Italy, they had worker co-ops, and then there was like an intellectual in the party called Ugo Spirito. Some of his works got censored, but he advocated for for basically expanding worker-owned cooperatives in the country. So like any system could pretty much have that. Like worker co-ops also existed in Yugoslavia.
That's like a part of syndicalism, right? Like the whole.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
so like
syndicalism created the whole idea of worker-owned cooperatives, and those can exist within any ideological structure. But I do think they would succeed a little bit more under socialism because you don't have like competing industries or monopolies trying to buy up. Because like, let's say you own like a cooperative that makes the best pasta sauce in the city, and then like say, you guys are making some badass pasta sauce, but then some big name company says, hey, we'll give you like such and such money if we buy out your product. Well, under like say the corporate state or under like say like anarcho-syndicalism, that isn't going to happen because that bigger company isn't going to exist to do that. Because either through anarcho-syndicalism you're going to have no big companies at all, or through the corporate state you're just going to have a government that says, hey, whatever big company. What's a good name of it? What's a good example of like a big company that owns like food or whatever?
Unico.
Yeah, like Unico or like whatever. The state basically steps into, and this is what we used to do in America during the Progressive era when we had like Theodore Roosevelt as president, or when we had like governors like Robert La Follette or Huey Long, is we would basically break up these monopolies so we could have like all these businesses that could coexist within each other, because because the free market is nobody's friend.
Well, yeah, and I wanted to get to like why immigration. It seems like an intuitive solution in the short term, but it's actually really myopic. Like, first of all, there's the thing that like if we focus too much on immigration, we're just going to get like xenophobia in the public discourse, and that'll actually move us away from trying to socialize the economy. It doesn't seem to be the case that xenophobia and socialism are in any way compatible. So if you're gonna choose one of the two, it had better be socialism. But the more important thing is wait, I think I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah,
That's
it's
okay.
is that you can't be focused on nationalism. It may be the case that that if you want to close your borders, you can for a while stave off like the effects of automating jobs away. But if you look at things in the long term, you probably want to increase the amount of total freedom of movement around the world, right? So you could stop people from coming in, or you could make it so that we have an international community with more open borders so that people can move away and emigrate away if there are more jobs available in other places than there are currently in America. So in the long term, even though it seems like immigration could be a good policy, it seems to be the case that if we had good international relations, people can actually use freedom of movement to go away if there are no more jobs available for them. So we can avoid all this international strife without actually trying to close our borders.
That freedom of movement thing kind of only works in the EU just because of like how closely knit all the other countries are in terms of geography. I don't think that sort of thing really works out with the US just due to like how big it is and how far like other comparable areas are in terms of like distance. Like the only one I can think of is like maybe Canada. In terms of like standard of living, and then everything else is like either Europe or Japan, which is like covered by an entire fucking ocean.
I mean, we can talk about like the logistical aspect of it, though. Like, it's pretty easy to do trade with all of these countries, obviously, and companies have different.
It's easier to do trade via land routes than it is to do through sea.
True, but like that's not just it, though. There's a lot of companies that have like international branches, and there's offices to work at far away, right? So like the whole freedom of movement thing. The more we like make it easy for people to get jobs, especially in accordance with if they have something already lined up already, and things like that. It's just going to be like a net benefit to the actual, interests of corporations and companies that exist in society.
Willivar, you are a retard. If we had complete open borders today, the average wages of the entire working class would more than double. Global poverty would be solved, and the GDP of the world would double. You're an absolute retard if you think that allowing workers to move to places where they have better pay will actually help only the capitalist class. It's just the case that opening borders will help everybody. So shut up. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, it's already kind of like that in the EU, though. I mean, Europe already kind of has open borders, and the capitalists do exploit that because you could just move people in, you can give them they can create their own jobs, and then through nepotism, and that's kind of what Doomer Nationalist was trying to say in his debate with you, is through nepotism, they use these jobs to basically hire the people they want. And then the people that are already living in those countries get kind of like, thrown by the wayside. And like, I don't have a xenophobic reason for like wanting to close the borders. I just think that most societies tend to do that if they want, something. That doesn't mean it stops immigration entirely, because even like North Korea like has migrant workers that go out of the country to work in other countries, but to bring money back into their country. And I myself, I came from a nomadic tribe, but see, back then there was no such thing as cities, there was no such thing as commodity production or capitalism. None of that stuff existed, during the time when the Lakota were a hunter-gatherer tribe. And like one thing I will say, like,
kind of. I think they had like some sort of like they had like some sort of city structure back in the day.
Not
back
necessarily, though.
It wasn't necessarily like a permanent city structure for like any one people, but I think there was like primary trading hubs at some point. Yeah, but see, like
right? one issue, there was some trading hubs, but they never really stayed in one place. Another issue I have, like it too, is like nomadicism isn't necessarily a bad thing, because they tried to fix that in the Soviet Union in Kazakhstan, where they tried to just make them stay in one spot and do like collective farms, and it caused like a humongous famine that killed a bunch of people in Kazakhstan. So I mean, I can understand both sides of the argument, but it's a really tricky thing. It's a really tricky subject that hasn't really found like the most like easiest of solutions.
I we got like raided by BX Bullet. I don't know when that happened. If Twitch wants to tell me when that happened, but thank you so much.
You have Streamlabs, Brittany. You need to link that up so you can get notifications when people raid you.
Yeah, like well, I can see it here. BX Bullet is actually going to be on we're gonna have a gun control panel on the 27th. So it'll be I think BX Bullet and Counterpoints, myself.
Ooh, Counterpoints did really, really good on that Lawrence Southern thing.
Yeah,
Twin Rabbit basically got embarrassed so bad that they just vanished.
Lance is too stupid to get properly embarrassed, though, so he's still on. But
yeah,
Lance has made that he holds similar positions to me on anything.
Lance is just a lolcow.
He kind of is. He actually, he is kind of. Him and a couple of other people, but yeah.
He sounds better when he just avoids debates.
Xander Hall moment.
Oof, rip.
Yeah, so I don't
Nobody
wanna,
likes that guy either. Oof.
I know.
Yeah, so I don't want to like fuck over like immigrant workers just to say like just to raise the middle finger to the capitalist class. I think like helping workers, whether they be immigrants or native, I think helping workers is more important than destroying the capitalists. You know.
Let me just answer this really quick. I'm guessing are you pro pew pew or against it is guns. I am. That's like my firmest position is I'm very anti-gun.
Brittany, you got to go to a gun range.
I've been to a gun range before and I shot the gun. I didn't like it.
Fun.
And yeah, why is Banana keep coming in our chat? Like, what the fuck?
Banana's mad.
Obsessed.
Is that the actual Banana or?
Wait, Dylan wants to
Bananas
just.
in chat, guys. Bananas in chat, boys.
Bananas in chat.
Yeah. So
Dylan needs to say, yeah, that's right. Attention whore time. Anyways.
Yeah, I am I'm pretty
Listen, we all make stuff on YouTube. We're all attention whores, okay?
Right, exactly. Thank you. Mwah. Okay. So, like, if we're talking about sticking the middle finger to the capitalist class, the best way to do this is, to subsidize worker cooperatives as, like, the first way of getting them, because if we make sort of the worker cooperative model the mainstream model, then this whole issue with, making capital owners more money is going to, like, become less of a problem. Even if we just remove the coercive aspect of the economy, we don't have to force, again, worker cooperatives model to be the most prevalent model.
You have to make it attractive, though. That's the thing.
So, right, that's the thing. Through subsidization, we can make this attractive.
Well, no, through subsidization, like that's like you need to actually make it attractive to prospective workers to actually sign up for these things, as opposed to like the current system. Like the reason there's nothing that's like actually stopping worker cooperatives from actually like functioning within like our current framework. It's just they don't seem to attract the same amount of people.
Right, so like my big issue with this is like I feel like there needs to be a form of like educating people on the actual subject of like what worker cooperatives do, because I don't feel like that's a relevant topic.
How would you do that specifically?
Well, like just through like there's a lot of like it's so stupid, but like why not?
Would you do it through state means? School?
Like, but that's my question.
State means is like for that sounds like propaganda, though.
But my question.
The thing is we don't even have to force it as good, because I feel like people don't even know what it is to begin with.
Yeah, I mean,
so, like it doesn't even have to be propagandized. It just has to be spoken about.
You know what it is.
Well, I mean, I know what it is because I watch Vosh, so like cringe moment, but whatever. So. Like the thing is there's statistics.
Dude, I don't even know. Like I was watching like one of his videos. Like, how do you stand him gaslighting you?
I have no idea. Like I've become less and less attracted to the concept of watching Vosh over and over because I just
don't watch him at all.
My big issue with him is
you're not going to learn anything from watching him. He's not.
I was watching. I was like unironically watching a clip of I want to say it was like on Afghanistan, and I started noticing this today, and I don't know if this is like a prevalent thing where like he gets like really like he gets really kind of pearl clutchy at like something that the chat has said. It's like I can't believe that there are like people this fucking crazy in my chat when he says like something that's completely non like tracking with what he said like previous, like a second beforehand, because I think he was saying something along the lines of like people who were in Afghanistan are more likely to be like more right leaning, and then like we should like I guess we should import them, but that. Then his chat was like going on. It's like you're going to import like a bunch of right wingers. Then it's like, wait, where are you getting that from? I don't know.
Yeah, no, my big issue with Vosh is so many of his like takes are like, as you know, as I've watched him, I've seen a lot of ridiculous takes.
Really inconsistent takes though, because a lot of
them are gaslight oriented. Honestly, it's a lot of
it's also just. A lot of it's just neoliberalism disguised as socialism, because he doesn't really read any theory. So, like, for example, if you're advocating for, like, syndicalism and worker co-ops, you know, you got to know your Daniel DeLeon works. You got to know your
Day-Lanism moment.
You got to know your Sorel.
Keep myself off somehow.
Like, even through, like, someone like myself, right? Because a lot of what I advocate for is grounded, of course, in, like, Luxemburgism and, you know, council communism in and of itself, and the way he goes about advocating for it is like the same like I hear Todd talk about his bingo card all the time. It's so annoying.
He just reads Wikipedia articles. That's where he gets all his information. He just gets it all from Wikipedia articles, and he doesn't actually hit the books. And the reason I take the positions I do is because I picked up books, and I read a lot of stuff that kind of, you know.
Yeah, no, books are like the way I go about, like...
Books are for boomers. I'm sorry.
Well no. Even audiobooks.
And it's crazy, too, because, like, for leftists, all you got to do is, like, go on Marxist.org or that...
Yeah, there's the whole library of PDFs there for people to read for free. Like, that's where I read a bunch of stuff.
All the biggest communist and socialist literature is just completely free and right out there.
Yeah, no, you can find anything from Lenin to Marx to Engels to Trotsky. It's all there for free. And I don't know why people are hating on theory.
Really quickly,
I get all my audiobooks for free.
Really quickly, okay, I just want to put our link tree in the chat, because for the people that were coming late, we've had people that were getting our Discord shut down, and so they came late to this drama, but we have a link tree, and why am I hearing myself echo? And all of our links in there, so we're on different platforms. So
it's just, in my opinion, I kind of believe more in national syndicalism myself. I mean, I think it's just more effective as far as like how it works within the state, because you have your state syndicate, and then you have your other body. You have the other parts of the body within the state, and then the workers negotiate with them. And basically, you create a better situation for the workers, unlike, you know, the shit show you had in Albania, where everybody was told, you're going to be this or that, and this is what we're going to tell you to do. And the only people that can complain are miners. And the miners will give them extra milk. But if you're like a factory worker and you don't like what you're doing here, we're going to beat your ass and send the secret police after you. Oh, yeah, and by the way, build us bunkers. But, you know, Albania under Hoxha was a pretty big shit show.
I think worker cooperatives are by their nature pretty attractive. I mean, it's literally...
that's something I was thinking about, too. I think it's about making it a prevalent thing in, like, mainstream culture to talk about.
But, yeah, like, even under national syndicalism, worker cooperatives can exist there, too. Like, worker cooperatives can exist within any system, I mean...
Well, yeah, now that's where, again, that comes with more fighting. We can agree on worker cooperatives, but now who's right about what the end goal is?
Well, I want to talk about that.
Carl's right, to reach that.
Not you.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because, getting back to my point about like internationalism and how we want freedom of movement for people, we also probably want to have economic internationalism just generally. Like, we probably don't want it to be the case that by the time that all those jobs are automated away and people are trying to move out of America to find jobs, that Mexico is still a shit show, right? Like, so we probably want to give help to other developing countries and make sure that they're a little bit caught up to speed, so that there's a smooth transition between a worker working in America and their quality of life going into a slightly less developed country with less automation, you know? So it's a better idea overall in the long term, even though it seems like intuitive to stop immigration now. It's a better idea to be economically and nationally cooperative with other people across the entire nation than to be just like, keep all the brown people out, you know?
The only problem with that is that it sort of runs counter to like what the moral imperative of the state at least should be, and that's like overall like looking out for its own people.
I don't give a shit about the state.
Well, yeah, but like this would only be implemented through government policy and therefore interacted through by the state.
But that's where I offered a good counter in worker cooperatives, right? So like that way we can prevent the like actual international capital owners from, you know, having too much power and removing the coercive aspect of like being in the economy. That's the ultimate check and balance.
The only problem with that is that like the only way that you would really be able to do that is if you like through force stop the ability to have people to have private ownership, and that's gonna be a fucking tall order.
Yeah, no, that's again a big issue for reformists like myself, is finding out how we're going to stop the joint stock model from being the most prevalent, especially considering the amount of capital accrued by people already, right?
It's pronounced prevalent.
That's what I said.
You said prevalent.
No, I said prevalent.
Don't Fed post. That's all I ask.
I mean,
prevalent.
This is all like based on the assumption that we are going to have like too many workers for the jobs available for them. And it seems to be the case that as a country gets richer and richer, and more educated, the rate of reproduction actually falls. I mean, I'm pretty sure like Americans, they only have like 1.6 children per woman. Like I don't see it necessarily being so it could be the case that by the time automation like becomes a huge problem, that our replacement rate is so low that we really just need immigrants coming in and nothing else. Like it could be the case that this isn't even a problem for a long
we can always also incentivize people to have more kids if we're having like an aging, dying population.
Or we could just let them immigrate, right? So we don't need to close our borders. We could just let people immigrate in. You know,
yeah. Generally, like immigration is
based, I guess.
I wonder. I mean, like, I feel like. Does anybody know what the birth rates are in some of the more, like, you know, Europe? Does anybody?
I just know they're declining in a lot of these Western nations, but
well, like,
I'm
curious about, like, you know, in England, maybe Canada.
Japan in particular is having like a massive population decrease.
Places where they have like more like even like France, like more socialized governments where they have more middle class, like they're not as. I'm wondering if that has, or if that's affecting their birth rate. So if anybody wants to do a fact check of any sort in the chat and give me some numbers, I would.
Well, I mean, you know, the beauty of like all of these wealthy countries is that there's like people aren't, you know, forced like they used to just have kids to come work on their farm and do all this labor for them, have 10 children, you know, and live in like a, you know, like a multi-generational household and all of this stuff, right? So like the incentivization for people to have kids has gone down pretty drastically as well.
Yeah,
that's
multi-generation households are base though.
I was raised in a multi-generational household.
They were pretty common in communism. But the thing I do want to ask a nihilist is, first of all, like how, like no one's ever really successfully implemented internationalism. So how can that happen? And I guess I'll just save the second question after you respond to the first, because I don't want it to be too loaded.
Well, sure. I mean, of course, if we had internationalism, I doubt we'd ever break back into regular nationalism. But I mean, there's some strategies that we might try to implement. I mean, we do have deep ties with strongly developed countries like in the EU and shit. So we could use that to create to strengthen our trading blocks, to try to exert pressures on other countries to try to join our international movement. I mean, it could be the case that like you could tell Canada and the EU to all say, none of us will trade with you and buy your shit unless you unless you do certain policies that will perhaps like raise the standard of living in your own country, or you stop putting all these tariffs on your countries. There's ways to.
I mean, we already kind of do that by like having trade agreements, by telling people that they have to have a certain standard of things, but then like countries like China just say, well, no, fuck you, and they have the ability to do that.
To all the tankies,
we do have like
deep economic ties to capitalism.
I mean, we do even have economic ties to China. I'm sure there's ways to put more pressure on them to, you know, I mean, we are like one of their biggest clients, you know, so I think there's things we can do to, if not try to get there through just like peaceable like rhetoric. I mean, we could probably use economic strategies to try to internationalize the economy even more than we have now.
I want to interject with something really quickly here. I think it's a good thing to, like, I don't think this is something that gets talked about enough, in the sense that I think trade unions are going to develop in South American countries. We see Venezuela under Luis Arce now. I've heard talk of the movement for socialism. They're going to like start, harnessing the resources. Like they have a huge supply of lithium, and with the demand of like lithium car batteries going up and things like this, I think that this is going to be a big thing for them. I think that them and probably Peru and maybe Venezuela, more countries as they're moving gradually left and they're voting in left-wing parties. I think that it would probably be like the quickest route to getting some kind of like larger socialist trade union started is going to be in South America through these countries, right? Like they have lots of oil in Venezuela, they have lots of lithium in Bolivia.
What are the birth rates in America? He's saying that in Ireland it's 16.876 per 1,000, and France 13. Is this like, are these the highest numbers, or what's in America?
I don't imagine they're very high.
Wait, what does that mean? Like per 1,000? Like is per 1,000 per year, right? So I mean, if without the years lived in context, I don't even know how to visualize that information.
Okay, so my second question to Nihilist is how does these things manifest with the out of state? Because I've noticed without a state historically, people have been a lot more these societies have been more violent and even more authoritarian without the state imposing the balance of things. Because if you don't have a state and say your worker councils can basically enforce whatever laws they want to, and they don't have to answer to the state to basically do what they want to debate for any of those reasons, like the CNT FAI over in Spain during the 30s, then you could basically get somebody that splits your head open with an axe because you sold gum or something, versus a state being in there to intervene between that and say, hey, you're not, you're gonna leave this guy alone because he's not committing a crime. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, that's why I don't really support like the anarchist positions like I used to, even though I do have a lot of anarchistic tendencies myself, because I do see that the state does protect people from, certain forces that could, cause a bunch of extreme violence.
Well, sure. I mean, if you're going to take the like Hobbesian perspective on this, I'm not sure it's the case that like we could get rid of the state today, or even like any time in the future. I'm not arguing that we should get rid of the state, but it's like you don't have to be nationalist even you're a state. Like, could you like at least agree with the basic fact that like some states are more or less nationalist in their ideology than others? I think there should be, instead of getting rid of states altogether in the short term, like we should probably like make them less nationalistic and less jingoistic,
Well, like I would argue that the United States isn't even a state or a nation; it's an empire. So it's an empire that's being used to basically impose its rule on other nations. And nationalism, does come upon. I mean, sorry, I kind of mix words up, but nationalism happens in these third world countries because they basically see that they're getting exploited, and they want to basically have a stronger sense of community. And when I say nationalism, I'm not talking necessarily the country itself, but just the people within the country. So, like, if Peru decides they don't want to be exploited, or Guatemala decides they don't want to be exploited by, say, the United States or another country, then nationalism, nationalist movements or nationalist sentiment usually comes upon them to basically create, that kind of situation to avoid that exploitation, kind of like Vietnam, for example, where they use that as a means of fighting against French and Japanese colonialism.
Yeah, if you look at like China right now and the way that they're moving about imperializing countries in Africa, right? Like it's only going to be natural for those countries to have national movements that rise up, which is going to be a tendency that gets involved with like, foreign imperialism coming in and, basically like Karl said, exploiting these workers, exploiting these impoverished people because they work for cheaper, which is like kind of part of that profit incentive in the all in the first place, right? Which is a big concern with, like, I don't know, Lenin said it best. Imperialism really do be the highest stage of capitalism.
He wasn't necessarily wrong about that either, because look at what happened, like with the United Fruit Company in Guatemala. Guatemala democratically elected a leader that was out there to do land reform, but because he wanted to nationalize the banana industry, that meant the United Fruit Company.
Did you say the banana industry?
Yeah, because the United Fruit Company had the monopoly on bananas over there, and he used land reform and nationalization of the banana industry to basically make sure that the workers in his country made the most profit.
Out. What industry?
Banana moment.
Oh, God.
Didn't they turn into Chiquita Banana after United Fruit?
Yeah,
the Banana Wars.
That's the IP they own. But basically, what they did was they used like Edward Bernays to run propaganda, and they basically had Arbenz and pretty much assassinated and taken out of power, so the United Fruit Company could monopolize that industry again. And that's another thing too. Is like, this is the thing. It's like, regardless of where you stand up politically, you don't really want, global capitalism to continue as it is, because it's just a monster. It's just like, it's the Galactus, from the Fantastic Four, and its only job is to basically just eat up anything in its path.
So I wanted to ask Brittany, because that's who basically I wanted to direct this conversation toward in the first place. Like, what do you think generally about like internationalism as a long-term solution instead of cutting off immigration when it comes to automation? Like, what do you think at this point?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, I've presented like a few solutions, like well, first of all, like it might not even be a problem if we just stop having as many kids, but like solutions that don't include like closing our borders, since it could be the case.
Like co-ops.
Can I say I also don't want to become a minority either in the country.
Now that's like, wait, Brittany, that's completely like, why do you not want to become the minority? That just sounds
Why
like
would anybody want to become the minority though?
Well, no one
that's
wants
kind
to
of what I
become
know.
Well, right. No one wants to like become the minority.
Okay.
But why did you just step out here and go, I don't want to be a minority?
Well, because that's also another thing that's going to happen if you keep increasing immigration.
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
It could be the case that we just don't have a minority. If everybody's just intermixing so much, it could just be like a smooth spectrum. Ideally, it would be the case
I don't know if
I
don't know if the current like system of intersectionality would even allow for that though.
But see, that's the problem. Is we're not Cuba, we're not Capo Verde, we're not Seychelles. We're not like a very we're already mixed, but we're not a melting pot. We're very balkanized. So we have a lot of different groups, and yeah, in some cities and in some hubs, these people get along really well and are very cohesive. But then in other places, people are more separate and they don't really want to be because like me myself, I'm being technically a mestizo. I know a lot of people that are Hispanics and stuff that can't stand like white liberals and completely completely despise them. But they're not like the mainstream voice in most platforms. So like if people are just listening to BreadTube, everybody just gets the wrong impression.
I think one of the problems, and for minorities that we have right now, it's like people are going to be a lot more sympathetic for the struggles that they've gone through, and I think a lot of white people in general are also trying to make it easier for them. Whereas when white people become the minority, that's not gonna you're not gonna have that same kind of sympathy towards white people. So when white people are the minority, and there's that racial revenge factor coming, I think it's kind of like a scary place.
What racial revenge? This is like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We're just going to be like, yeah, we don't want the immigrants to come in. Oh, wait, why are the brown people so racist?
The overall animus of a lot of intersectionality things, especially when you get into the aspects of the popular kind of criticisms of CRT specifically, seems to sort of paint white people in a very oppressive nature, and you'll constantly hear things about you need to deconstruct your whiteness or something like that, but not necessarily the same of any other sort of racial identity. So I think that people do have I think people have a very genuine and reasonable kind of animosity towards this, especially when people will constantly say that just specifically racial targeting, you know what I mean?
Right. So the important thing is, shouldn't we try to make it so people, if we want to sort of end this whole anti-white rhetoric thing, wouldn't it be more important to, like, again, this is something I feel like is most important to preach, is when we learn about, and teach things like slavery in classrooms and all this stuff, wouldn't it be more important to focus on, like, the compassionate aspect of
Absolutely. I think
like,
so.
trying not to make people fearful of becoming a minority in the first place, because universally, I think being a minority is like a stressor to all people, right?
Here's the thing, like, okay, well, no matter what you are, like, nobody wants to be the minority in general, and I think maybe if you do kind of try to fix how minorities are treated, and no matter who the minority is, that could be helpful. But again, the same thing happens when white people have a really, really bad history in this country. And so when that time comes where white people are the minority and we're teaching, critical race theory, we're teaching all these bad things that white people have done over like our entire history, nobody is going to be very sympathetic to that white person. They're not going to like, they're not going to be, they're just not going to happen.
Well, yeah, because like I myself,
they deserve it. They deserve it.
Wait, so don't you just think that it's like more important to take the burden off of being a minority in the first place? Because like if you look at like we can kind of. I think racial whatever skin color you're born with doesn't really dictate much about people, so it's important to like remove that.
The thing is that the narratives of intersectionality don't really necessarily correlate with things that are currently ongoing. It's also about like historical narratives as well.
Right. So like the thing is, it's not really like an intersectionality thing. It's more so like the current like liberal movement.
For me, it's like, I'm not like trying to.
No,
it's not inherent to intersectionality.
I don't think you get to. I don't think you get to disengage yourself from that point. I don't think.
Wait, how is it? Wait, how is it inherent to intersectionality in and of itself? To like. White people bad rhetoric, like that, if that's like what we're talking about.
Where does the phrase whiteness come from?
Well, it comes from white people, right?
But
whether or not somebody
on Twitter, BuzzFeed.
So only liberal. Like I don't know. I don't know, dude. Like it's no true Scotsman sort of shit with that.
It's not really a no true Scotsman thing in and of the sense that I think it's like going to be a better stride, because there's a lot of like. I obviously have my issues with like this neoliberal, social left, economically right group of people myself, right? It's not really a no true Scotsman in the whole sense that I disavow.
You just said that they're socially left, though. You just admitted that they're socially left.
I mean, they're socially left, and so am I. But the thing is a lot of the rhetoric they espouse is like demonstrably wrong in so many other ways too, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of shit that I go along with that I don't agree with,
I don't agree with the idea that like anti-white rhetoric itself is socially left. I mean, at any point in time where you
absolutely it is.
Wait, no, that's because you don't understand things. Okay, if at any point you're increasing hierarchy of whether it's white people over black people or black people over white people, you are by definition right wing. This is
wait, what now?
Let me just say something really quick, because it's not about that. It's like white people have this whole like white guilt thing, and I've gone through the white guilt thing where they want to go above and beyond to make sure that that they're catering and making like paying for our sins of the past, but in a way now that it's like it's not doing it in a right way. It's like going again and making just white people the villain no matter what. It's not about like protecting minorities. It's talking about how horrible white people are and like they don't deserve anything and they don't like.
Right. So we can distance ourselves from that kind of like thinking.
But can I say something in response to Brittany though?
Absolutely.
Because Brittany's making a good point here, because like I myself, I used to have a very anti-white worldview, because for a short period of time I followed Great Millstone, which was a Black Hebrew Israelite group where I thought I was
right.
Yeah, that's right. And basically, a Hispanic friend talked me out of it, who is another content creator on YouTube, and this was a long time ago before I was doing videos. But then, I read a book called Black Hills, White Justice, which talked about how the government pretty much screwed over the Lakota tribe. I have another book called The Unquiet Grave, which talks about that stuff as well. And I think that, going forward, the important thing to do is to create a new culture where you just teach people how to work together and you don't bring up all this historical stuff to basically point the fingers at one race, because this whole anti-white narrative is pretty stupid in my opinion, mostly because it was mostly the Anglos that founded the country, and there was, of course, another, ethnic group along with them that were a higher class, and every European group that immigrated into here was seen as an underclass, and they only became considered quote-unquote white later on until they were, until they were basically integrated in or assimilated in. And
I agree.
I like Karl. He is, I like Karl. He is woke on the eternal Anglo.
Okay, so
and the other thing about that too, one last thing I want to say about that is, even if, like, say European Americans are not the majority, they're just going to consider another ethnic group to be white. So, like, if Hispanics are the majority population in this country, they're going to start getting treated the same way that Europeans are going to get treated, like, decades later. And it's going to be just the same process repeating itself over, but just under different results. So even then, like, this whole talk of, like, intersectionality is just not, it doesn't really, I understand the grievances it has, but I don't think in the long run it really is, like, it's really good at, like, bringing society together and unifying.
But the thing is, it's important to, like, try and, push away all of these sort of, like, if you really want to talk about a cohesive society, then there's got to be an aspect of it that isn't contingent on race and tribalism, right? Like,
well, yeah. That's why I believe in social justice, but just not social justice in the liberal sense.
So, like, of course. And I think a nihilist was talking about this earlier when, we heard that whole, it's on the left to not be hierarchical thing as opposed to the right, which is, the thing is we're talking about, like, BuzzFeed shit libs here when we're talking about these fucking, like, whiteness is bad, remove yourself from the white.
Those people have no nuance.
So, like, the thing is it's not inherently left-wing, it's liberal. It's totally a liberal thing.
That's also, they're also echoing the same sentiments as the same, like, people who are pushing all the other things. Like, you're not gonna find, like, a person who's, like, super on the left in terms of, like, online content creators that's at all pushing back. If anything, they push back at the people, like, criticizing and making fun of those people.
I push back on it. I made an entire video about, like, the overswing and the overcompensation of these people. Like, you do get people like black segregationists and shit. I would argue that they're right-wingers because they create a hierarchy of black people over white people, and I think it's...
You don't even have to argue that they're, like, right-wingers.
Wait. Unless you're infrared, because infrared thinks breadtube is white supremacy.
Okay, but you're not allowed to, like, push back on this stuff, and it's like, because then you end up being called a racist, and, like, it's not coming from a hateful place at all, like, not at all. And, like, a lot of the people I even talk to that are worried about this, it's not coming from hate, it's coming more so from fear. Like, and I think that fear is valid.
Real quick, I'm going to head off. Thank you guys for having me on. To all the people, youtube.com/Flamenco TV. However, after this, if you guys are looking for a very interesting, a little bit more light-hearted story, I highly encourage you guys to watch the newest video by Remy Down Under Gaming. He just did a wonderful little history of a British Polak who got stranded in Kabul right as the government fell, and his wacky misadventures. I hope that Lord Miles makes it home safe, and
are you
should guys watch it.
Flamenco?
Yeah, just DM it to me on Discord.
All
right.
Well,
Good night, everybody.
DM you on Discord.
But
I'll
yeah,
DM it to you on Twitter.
Yeah.
But basically, Luke wanted in if he could come in, but
Sure.
basically, like, according to Haas, Luke from New Frontier. But basically, according to, if he's still even up, but basically, according to Haas, he views breadtube as white supremacy because it's not necessarily white as in, like, they promote, like, race realism or racial politics, like, people on the right do, but it's white in the sense that they want to push a culture, like a neoliberal culture, internationally and abroad, versus, respecting, people's autonomy and their sovereignty, and respecting their agency. So,
right. So, like, the thing is you can still denounce all of this, like, really shitty, cringy, like, you see it on Twitter all the time, people saying, you need to disavow your whiteness and all of this, and being white is bad, right?
Well, I'm just lucky I'm not white, so I don't have to.
Right, exactly, right. But, like, I'm sure you guys have all seen it, right? But it's still, like, it's not a non-left-wing sentiment to disavow that kind of behavior, in the sense
like
that, like,
overcompensation. I mean, it is
right.
the case
In
that
the sense that a nihilist was talking about this from like a Marxian lens of analysis, right? Like the whole perspective of abolishing the hierarchies that get formed through like racial supremacy. So no matter who's doing it where, right? Like you could be a black supremacist or a white supremacist. It doesn't matter, so long as you're instilling and you keep trying to institute that hierarchy, right? That's not inherent to the left wing in general. If we're making like a descriptive claim about who's where on the political spectrum in terms of,
but I think you're talking about a different kind of thing. Like it's like, okay, you're talking about maybe authoritarianism or something, whereas there's like authoritarian factor on the left as well, and but we are kind of divided on, you know, with the right, it's like they really only have to worry about white, straight, Christian men. That's kind of who their audience is. Whereas the left, it's like you have pretty much all the diversity in the country is on the left. Maybe it's not always by choice, but you know, they feel like they have to be on the left.
Well,
so,
a lot of
well, I don't know if you're not talking about like the socially conservative people who are like immigrants, because there's a lot of those guys.
Yeah, there are a lot of those guys, and like a lot of them, like they feel like they have to vote Democrat because maybe the right wing is more racist towards them. Yeah, so there's a lot of people that are not really voting Democrat by choice. They kind of just are voting.
Yeah, a lot of them are like right wingers who vote Democrat because it's not the right wing type. It's like the right wing in favor of white people instead of right wing in favor of black people, like shit like that. There's like right wingers in the Democratic Party, but that's not like that doesn't prove that like critical race theory or intersectionality is anti-white. That's like a fundamental
debate on that.
It actually is though.
It's not. It's a misapplication of. It's a misapplication of intersectional principles. It's not saying that white people are bad. It's saying that whiteness as a system of oppression is bad. For example, whether or not a group is defined as white is a good indicator of whether or not they are oppressed. For example, are Jews white? If someone tells you that Jews are not white,
according to a lot of people that are black that I know of, they are considered pretty much white to them.
The thing is, though, is like I think using the word whiteness in and of as like a concept to use to call people oppressive is kind of like shitty, you know, in terms of like making white people sound like oppressors, right? It's really bad to look at it, because especially considering the biggest issues come from mostly class-based problems, right? And just generally speaking,
yeah, I mean, so
white people have had fortunacies in class, right? Like,
yeah, so whether a group is defined as white or not is an indicator of whether or not they're in a position of power. So destroying the system of whiteness is not the same as destroying those people, right? So if you're saying,
don't you think it's just a shitty way of phrasing it?
Construct.
Yeah, it's a social construct. Yeah. So if you destroy the construct, white people will still be themselves. The actual people who are represented by whiteness, I don't even believe that whiteness.
But see, whiteness is a social construct that was imposed by the power structure and by the elites. And the thing is like there's all these different European cultures that live here, and just assimilating them away from their culture doesn't necessarily mean that like, oh, you know, because like for example, a lot of European people in my family were immigrants. They didn't come here, you know, on the Mayflower or anything. They came here in the 19th century. So, you know, they came here as Germans, Italians, Scandinavians, and things like that. They didn't come here as, you know, quote unquote white people. They only just got, and there's like Arabs, you know, there's like Middle Eastern and North African people, and even people from Latin America that get classified as, you know, white. You know,
yeah, I mean that seems to be that's one way of destroying the concept of whiteness. Once you allow like Hispanic people and Latino people and like Arab people into the category of white, or once you acknowledge that people of East Asian descent, for example, they have a lot of they're more willing to assimilate and get into this category where they're associated with people who are white in certain types of their characteristics. The more people you include into this bubble of who can be allowed to be called white, the less meaning the term whiteness actually has.
Well, it's a meaningless term to me, because like anybody.
Why use that term? It's such a it's very derogatory.
Anybody can be classified as white.
He says this. He said, if I said Jewishness was bad, that would be anti-Semitic. If I said whiteness is bad, I'm praised. Why?
Well, no, Jewishness isn't necessarily saying Jewishness is bad isn't necessarily anti-Semitic. I don't think.
Come on,
no, you wouldn't want to say that.
On what world is it not?
I mean, if Jewishness...
Yeah, go tweet that right now. Tell me how that goes.
Yeah, so this is a cancelable take. This is a cancelable take from me. But yeah, if it was the case that like there were a bunch of Jewish supremacists who are saying we're the children of God and we're like their people, and if we're going to use whether or not you're a Jewish as a way of distinguishing yourself from other people so that you can oppress other people, then you could say that Jewishness is bad. This is something that's happening in Israel right now. So in the Israel context, whether or not someone is considered Jewish might be a system of oppression that you might want to take down. In the American context, that's not the case. But that doesn't make it anti-Semitic to say that Jewishness in some contexts is bad.
Of course, you're talking about like, okay, if you say the things going on in Israel is bad.
Yeah,
but when you say Jewish,
that's not even a good way of putting it, because even in Israel, there's a lot of citizens that live there that disagree with the government and don't even like what.
Well, I think it's important to distinguish like the cultural aspect, because obviously there's a lot of like. I am very against quite a few worldwide cultures and a lot of the shit they perpetuate. But attributing it to like an ethnic group or a group of people like white people or Jewish people is just, in and of itself harmful in the sense that it carries like a derogatory connotation with it, right?
Well, yeah, and see, the problem is like, as Grammatube mentioned in the chat really well, it's his question is like, why whiteness? Why not just use the word oppression? Because if you're going after the class that's oppressing you, then that makes it more clear, like, because like, like they tried that, in this, like in the Soviet Union, they tried basically to do the dictatorship of the proletariat, and there was still like ethnic conflicts under Stalin. So you didn't get like people just immediately getting along with each other and singing Kumbaya. So yeah. I'm just saying these things don't have like easy answers, because like in Italy, for example, when they had the corporate state, you had Italians and Jewish people that worked hand in hand together, and you didn't have a problem like you did in Germany, where they just went full blown JQ and then turned them into a persecuted racial group,
Yeah, the tie, like exactly what Karl said there. The tie to the Jewishness is the harmful factor, not the tie to like the other factors that control and make them, horribly like oppressive people. Obviously I'm going to attribute this as someone who's more Marxist leaning to like ownership of a lot of capital, right? Like I think the tie to, an ethnic background in and of itself
that's why I hate the JQ,
pretty harmful.
But that's why I hate the JQ, because it's just blaming one ethnic. Because this is what a lot of white nationalists and neo-Nazis and Natsocs do. They'll blame the JQ for basically saying that they control every little thing. But if you deport, those people, or say take them out of power, you're going to have a whole new capitalist class that will exploit and do the same thing. Because look at the UK, for example. I was reading a book about the British invasion, and even though the UK was an ethno-state at the time, during that era, there was still like a class distinction between the upper class and the lower class. And the lower class were mostly rock musicians, and they had different accents, they had a different culture, and they weren't seen the same way as the upper class, even though they were the same ethnic group.
Yeah, so basically the point is, like, it depends on the context that we're talking about. So if there was a society in which black people, or people who were considered black, were on top and white people were oppressed, then I would consider the system of blackness to be oppressive and something that which should be destroyed. So I mean, if you want,
right, so why attribute it to like the ethnic group in and of itself? Like, why can't we find another way to frame it?
I agree that it would be better, instead of saying whiteness, where you could provoke this reactionary racial animus in the other direction and overcompensate. I could agree with you that saying just racial oppression is bad, and not even give any reference to the term whiteness. But I'm defending the concept itself, not like the usage of the term. So the terminology itself could be bad optics.
Right, so then I'd agree with you on like the usage of the term, but I completely just disagree with like the semantical aspect of the way.
I don't like the semantics either.
Stupid.
I think it's bad.
And I hate the tie that's intrinsic to whiteness.
Yeah,
and,
so I love whiteness.
At the end of the day, like,
I think it's more of a systemic thing myself. It's not so much. It's not a race thing.
Out there is,
I don't think
Well,
I'd like to say.
I just like my point? I'll take a second and then I'll let you go. If you look at this from like a materialist and like a historical materialist perspective from the beginning, you'd acknowledge that whatever color skin people, if it was, again, like black people on top or brown people on top, whoever, this would have all been attributed to like the conditions that, you know, allowed them to get there in the first place. Like, it's not a thing that's completely related to being white. This would be completely attributed to like the conditions that surrounded these people in order to like take over and, you know, start oppressing other peoples, right? It just so happens to be white people as opposed to it being tied to their white, like the thing that's intrinsic to them about being white, right? The oppression in and of itself comes from the conditions that allowed them to get on top, to find ways to imperialize and colonialize other people, not so much the thing that's intrinsic to them being white in and of itself, right?
Yeah. So it's a systemic critique that should never be applied to individuals for being white. Basically, is the concept. Do you understand like what we're talking about, Brittany? Because
Oh, I just want to address something in the chat really fast. Mold Buggy and NK Ultra Victim, as far as the Congolese question is concerned, I would say stop killing the Twa tribe, which we would know as pygmies.
Come on, Post.
Oh my god, yes, please bring on Post.
I love Post, I missed him.
But basically, yeah, no, they're genociding the Twa tribe over there in the Congo.
For so long.
He's part of that crew.
And the Twa tribe is one example I would like make an exception for immigration, because if a tribe like them, or like say the Azeris, like are getting genocided, then I'd say yeah, like if it's a refugee crisis, bring them in. If there's nowhere else for them to go.
Oh God,
but that's one of the few exceptions I'm gonna make though, is when it comes to like immigration.
Now there's people in chat saying I hate white people. So now I'm like I'm a Nazi and I'm a neoliberal and I hate white people. It's everything. My lore is so deep now.
I sent you the link in Twitter, so go get it. Get it.
Yeah. So Bruce, do you like understand like basically like the difference between like, you know, anti-white hatred and like criticism of the system of whiteness? Now that we've like
I do, and I think that like there has been a lot of anti-white rhetoric going on from people. It's online, and like online is pretty much where everything is happening these days, especially with young people who are like easily influenced. So this like rhetoric is just getting like entrenched in their brains, and as people are growing up with this, this is what's happening, and people just are gonna have this like rage against white people, and the second white people are the minority, I don't think the white people are going to have the same kind of protections other minorities have, because they're not going to have the same kind of sympathy as other minorities have.
Well, if that ever becomes the case, the real left, who just cares about tearing down hierarchy, will go onto the side of the people who oppose anti-white hatred. So I mean, there's three factions here. There's the people who hate white people and are pro-minority. There's people who love white people and are anti-minority, and there's leftists who don't like hierarchy at all. So you should probably join the side of the leftists who want to take down the system of oppression in favor of white people at the moment. And if there is some like overcompensation in the future, then you would take down the black hierarchy or whatever hierarchy is replaces white hierarchy now.
Yeah.
That's not a reason to oppose immigration.
That are going to be like
that's not a reason to oppose immigration.
Well, it kind of is though, because that's the number one thing that's like replacing white people.
That's not a solution.
I don't oppose immigration for that reason, though. I just oppose it because
it's not just that reason. And like
I just oppose it because it benefits the capitalist class, because they use it.
Like I have like a long list of like reasons why I oppose it. It is like that's one of like many. Also, with if you ever want health care, you're gonna need to get immigration under control. But
it was like kind of funny to see Joe Biden talking about the great replacement on a black panel and just have that slip right out of his mouth. It's like Biden, I think you're live on TV. I don't think you should be saying that.
What, that white people are going to become the minority? I mean, it's not like a controversial thing to say. It's kind of pretty well known that like white people are going to become the minority. Look at the way the numbers are going. It's been going this direction quite a lot, and it just seems to be increasing. Like and also with climate change and everything that's going to happen in that, you're going to have a lot of migration happening. So it's there's a lot of things that are leading to this, and it's not looking good for
your solution.
Brittany, wait, I need to say this really quick because I think this is super important to get out. It is descriptively true that there might be a white minority, right? In the way that immigration is trending, right? So this is descriptive. So this is descriptively true, right? The important thing to do is try to like minimize the damage caused by this happening if this ever happens, right?
We're talking about trying to change the mentality of an entire country. I like that is like the most like that's like such.
That's difficult, but that is what needs to be done, right? We cannot like first things first. Do you think that like the white supremacist sentiment is a good sentiment? Obviously, I don't think you do.
And I don't think it comes.
So the whole point is to try.
I don't think all of this comes from a place of white supremacy. I don't think that.
No. The fact that there's a white majority, like I understand, a lot of people are scared of losing this, right? However, the issue with this line of thinking is that it presupposes a lot of things. So the whole goal should be to try to make people less fearful and more presupposing things that might be a hopeful outcome for them, right? Like they want to, not fear becoming a minority, because this would be a universal thing that could extend across the board to everyone if we all accept that, okay, being the minority can be a scary thing.
I think white people have the most to fear from becoming a minority than any other minority.
Right, so they still do have this.
Already minorities.
Minorities.
So and I'm saying that people are more sympathetic to other minorities because of the things that they've gone through. People are not going to be sympathetic to white
so Brittany, why don't we try to work on the things that are going to make people less, sympathetic to white people?
I would love to do that. I think
so you're engaging in harmful rhetoric. The way to go about this is not through like canceling immigration. That's like a really weird way of posing this.
No.
The fact of the matter is that our economy is reliant on a lot of migrant workers. There's a lot of immigrants who want to do work
not as technology.
Yeah, you're wrong.
As advancing and machines.
Right, no. There's a lot of immigrants that do work for cheap and to discredit their contributions to labor.
And it hurts the black community.
Solution is not a solution. You're just
there's no solution at all here. It's just presupposing that we're going to wait.
She was being honest, and you guys are coming at this trying to put it on the left, and my side is better, and that's what you guys are doing. But she's being honest, and I'm going to tell you, you will get no sympathy from black folks, and I'll fucking tell you now, you will get none because of how you have treated black folks in the past. That's a fucking fact. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. You can't. There's no way anyone can make a utilitarian or utopian argument against reality. Reality does what it wants to, and I mean.
Right. So it's descriptively true that reality is going to go wherever it's going to go. However, don't you think that the idea is to, the utilitarian approach isn't necessarily to just prevent harm outright, because that's impossible. We need to find a way to ensure that there's going to be less and less harm done initially.
There's a lot of reasons to lower immigration, and white people becoming a minority.
But we're talking about this reason.
That's a very slow, slim, that's pretty low on the list actually on my reasons of why we should be reducing immigration.
Wait, immigration
is a reason.
Well, the other thing too is a lot of people coming in are most likely going to support my kind of politics. And not the kind of politics that the majority in this country do support.
Immigration is not a solution to white supremacy. Immigration is not a solution to anything. It's just okay. So I mean, the basic fact is that there are white supremacists and there are anti-white racists. Both of these groups must be destroyed. But currently, the white supremacists hold more power, and by
you think
advancing,
white supremacists hold more power?
Yeah, they're more entrenched.
You're out of your mind.
Look at what
you're out of your
mind.
Are doing. You're out of your
Look
fucking
at what the
mind.
Republicans are doing to try to.
You're out of your fucking
white
mind.
Supremacy, they're getting crushed, and especially in the corporate sectors. So you can't say any of that stuff because they're going, and especially with social media, you get yourself trending on anything. There's no amount of money that can get you out of it. So
look at Morgan Whalen just for making a comment on his Ring doorbell to his friend in jest that everybody says on social media, and he was canceled. That doesn't happen. The Black Israelites, they can say whatever. Listen, I got a video. And the slurs that they're saying is world.
Yeah, they say all sorts of horrible slurs.
And there's no cancellation. So, dude, you guys are talking from this. There should be, but there isn't. There isn't, though.
Right. So the goal here is, it's descriptively true that this is going to happen. But this is a descriptively true thing that you're saying is going to happen, which I don't disagree with. The goal at the end of the day is still to try to No, Todd, because that's a really fucking stupid thing to say. If you don't think that it's not,
you've been saying stupid shit for 4 hours. So again, I sat back and listened to it.
You tolerated it, so that's your fucking problem.
That's
I guess.
correct.
Here for 4 hours.
Yeah,
Right,
dude.
so
So let
the
Post.
thing
So
is-
shut the fuck up, Dylan.
No.
Let's say
I'm
hello to
finishing this
Post.
fucking
Hello,
point.
Post. Hello,
Hey,
Post.
everybody.
Shut the fuck up.
Hi,
Dylan.
Post. Wait, no.
Post, how are you?
You interrupted me mid fucking point.
Correct. I'm
finishing
allowed
the
to do that.
goddamn point.
I'm allowed
So
to do
little
that.
Timmy
So
does
shut the fuck
exist.
up and say hello to Post Manifesto. How
And
are
I
you,
am
Post?
very
Long
eager to
time
have
no
Post
see.
here.
Hey, what's up?
How you been?
Yeah. Oh, he's little Timmy. Oh,
Little Timmy.
Post is
Yikes.
little Timmy.
I've been good. I want to make it clear that while I do talk to like the synth group, I don't
That
like,
was just
agree
me
with them.
busting. Yeah, that was me. She's all you know me. I don't trust anybody, bro. So that was just me
No, I get
saying
you.
something.
You're
Okay.
like the only one that I would like trust out of the synth clan.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, obviously, I have my sympathies towards a lot of their positions, but like, I'm torn on like platforming shit. I'd rather just like not engage in the conversation at large about platforming because I don't really have like a strong position on like the right wing echo chamber thing. It's
Yeah.
too complicated for me to really like
That's
say
fine.
one way or the other.
Right. So as I was saying, like the anti-white racists and the white supremacists both have to be destroyed. But I don't see how decreasing
We gotta answer
immigration
the super chat. I'm sorry. CG wants to answer to the super chat, so go on, you guys.
I could. Is it okay if I read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
He wants the panel to read it. So CG says $5. White people will be free. Ethnomasochism is ethnomasochism is a virus Dylan is infected with. We choose to divorce this failed project, and you want us arrested?
What? Yeah, no. So
That's some fucking big word salad bullshit right there, and it goes right along with what I'm saying. This is the part where Dylan turns the fucking heat up, okay? I said it. It's a descriptively true goddamn thing that people are going to be have anti, white sentiments or whatever. Now, the thing is the way you guys go about weaving and ducking and moving around the concept of not trying to abolish these, like, harmful race-based things and going, you know what, maybe, like, you guys are, like, acknowledging it, but you're not doing anything about it. It's like, yeah, okay, all of this shit's bad. We're dividing each other over race. That's a fucking terrible thing. But I'm just going to sit here, suck it up, and be like, well, it's inevitable. It's just going to happen.
Word
I mean,
salad.
This is
has any
stupid.
other? I mean, this is like a huge social experiment, like our country, and like all of the diversity that's in it. I mean, has there ever been happened throughout history where we've had the kind of diversity we have in this country, where that's worked out in history? I mean, I'm honestly asking.
The concept of diversity has changed pretty dramatically throughout history. The ways that we draw racial lines have changed really dramatically. It's really hard to draw comparisons to history because in Rome, I'm going to talk out of my ass a little bit on this. From what I understand, in Rome, there were not really like racial lines divided among like skin color and like cliental groups. It was more about where you were born and your allegiances.
It was a nationality thing. You're either Roman or you're not.
Yeah, so it's really hard to draw comparisons to history, and it's really hard to tell.
In Israel,
Yeah, the modern concept of race is only like 400 years old with the advent of like African slavery.
Okay,
But
so
I was just gonna say that multiculturalism doesn't even exist in this country. I mean, it's just like it's an abstraction. I mean, there always is going to be a dominant culture within a nation. So, the dominant culture could be like our dominant culture is pretty much like this free market capitalism bullshit where it's just like strip malls and Burger King and
so how does reducing immigration solve either white supremacy or anti-white hatred? Because it seems to me like you're just changing the balance of power between the both of them, but you're not actually doing anything to destroy them. In fact, if you reduce immigration, you're actually going to create more racial animus. So you're going to decrease the power of the anti-white racists, but the total amount of bigotry will actually increase by you creating more immigration control.
But
so
I
it's
think
a better idea to not actually draw these arbitrary lines between people on different geographical areas and people of different skin colors, and focus on actual anti-racist action instead of trying to put a band-aid on the issue by keeping the anti-white racists out of the country.
Okay, no, but I think it matters about how you're going about it. Like if you're having somebody out there and talking about like, kind of the way Trump was pushing it, then yeah, it's going to like raise racial tensions and stuff. But if you have somebody, I mean, Democrats used to go about doing this very thing, talking about how we need to get immigration under control, how we needed to get fencing, how we needed to do these things, and it wasn't done in a malicious or like a bad place. But it is something that needs to be done, and it needs to be done by the right people, compassionate people that are doing this for the right reasons, and not just like trying to like preserve a white culture, because that's not my goal. I don't care about preserving the white culture. That's not my thing at all. I do worry about white people becoming a minority because of the whole racial revenge thing. I do worry about bringing in a lot of low skill labor because I don't think we can take care of them all. So there are like a lot of factors that go into this, and it's not coming from a hateful place or a superiority place or anything like that.
Brittany, I need to address chat really quick because they're fucking so beyond stupid. Like, that's right, I'm calling you motherfuckers out. You are all so goddamn unbelievably dumb. My brain is, like, actually going to start leaking out my ears and onto the floor next to me. Holy shit, modern conception of race is about only 400 years old. And it comes with the, supremacist aspects of their being, attributed to the fact that we are going to oppress and dominate a single race. Like, yeah, slavery was, around and it predates this, sure. But we basically, as a part of American history, we dominate black people for the sake of it being black people. Oh no, I have a fucking argument. I'm still reading this goddamn chat. This is so beyond stupid. I made a prescription, and this is fucking dumb that you guys would even contradict that. What they just said is descriptively true, and that is true. That yeah, people are like, I can't make people think a certain way. They're always going to think a certain way. But holy fucking Christ. Oh my.
Wait, Dylan, real quick.
In the sky.
Dylan, real quick.
If I can't make a prescription that people discriminating against people is bad.
You're saying a lot of the same things now. All right, so go ahead.
They need to hear it.
I have a logistic thing for Dylan. I can't. It sounds like you're not using the right microphone. Can you tap on the mic you're using and real quick? No, you're not using that mic. It's
God damn it!
This whole time.
It sounds like a laptop mic. That's why is that a Rode NT1?
He's sitting there calling chat stupid.
Hey, I'm stupid too, I guess.
I'm not trying to call you out. I'm here to help. Okay.
Is it working?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now okay. The distortion pedal is off now. Go ahead.
Okay,
Sorry,
thank God.
The
I was
left
gonna
are
say,
the
I've got one of
retards.
those
I'm
bastards
sorry.
right to the right of me, but it's not plugged into
That's
the
much
mic.
better.
Still.
You're welcome, everybody.
Yeah. Well, thing is,
Where were you 4
I'll bite the
hours
bullet
ago?
on being stupid. I'm okay with it.
I'm a little late.
I'll acknowledge I'm a fucking retard too. But the fact that you guys literally say stupid shit like, oh, you can't erase people's thoughts. Don't fucking care. Didn't fucking ask. You guys are dumb. I'm
Chat
saying this
always
again.
wins. I don't know why people read chat. Chat
Yeah,
always
I don't know why
wins.
I read it either. But the prescription that we
Thanks,
shouldn't
little Timmy.
discriminate.
Well, at least you're not screaming
Thanks,
for them
Timmy.
to shut the fuck up like Infrared does.
So the prescription that dividing, beyond racial lines is a bad thing is like objectively true. There's a lot of animosity and bad things that are a consequence of dividing each other among race. And the fact that you guys are just like circle jerking each other going, well, it's going to happen. So why not just let it happen? It's so dumb to me. Like, how can you guys all fucking say that shit?
High five chat.
Okay, so let's get Post's
I love
opinion
it.
on this because Post was one of the first people who I would talk to. He really is a good faith debater, and it was like because I'm a bad faith fucking debater, and I I think I probably was with him too.
I'm the
But,
best faith debater.
Nihilus, you're one of the worst faith debaters. I'm going to call you out. You literally are pro fucking eugenics, which has killed 20 million black babies, and then you
That's
fucking
not
have
the
the
same as
nerve
black-
to
bad
fucking
faith.
get on here and talk shit. But
That's
whatever.
not the same as bad faith. I mean, I was
let's-
nice to Flamenco.
please
like, you can ask
let's
him,
let-
he loves me.
Post get his point in here because I genuinely want to hear what he thinks too. So go ahead, Post.
Now it's Mike's over.
You're muted.
Yeah, you're muted.
Now that's bad faith. Couldn't even let him talk.
You're muted.
You're muted. You got to mute yourself from the actual StreamYard.
And he's gone. Little Timmy He's still being held
Little
down.
Timmy can never catch a break,
Little
you guys.
That's okay. Chat is fucking calling me out as
He thinks
as
his mic
usual.
You're still reading chat?
We'll definitely
Yeah,
be
I'm
getting
still
the
reading
Little
chat
Timmy
because
merch,
they're
you guys.
no. Their pea brains are saying, "Wrap it up, Dylan. Come on." No. I want you to fucking address what I said if you think you've got a better answer.
That was my
I just
karma
said
for
fucking something.
making
I
fun
know
of,
that was.
Dylan.
No, that was a little Timmy
Um,
being held back. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Toast.
Yeah, so you want my opinion on the I'm sorry, that totally blanked my memory. What were we discussing, the very last thing?
About this whole. What is your opinion?
Did it happen again? Hold on,
No,
sorry.
you're fine.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
I couldn't hear anybody for a second. All right,
You
so
muted on StreamYard before. All you had to do was unmute it. But you're
okay,
fine.
yeah, well, my mic got unplugged and then it wasn't recognizing it, so that's why I had to rejoin.
Just
go ahead,
overall
Todd.
opinion. Do you think that this is warranted? Do you think whites will be treated bad? I think it will be, because minorities always will be treated bad, and hence the minority. So what's your opinion on it? Because you haven't been on in a while.
Yeah, I think I've been watching a lot of the discussions that have been had about this, and it's been really frustrating that it seems like people think that white people will inevitably become a minority, and I think that's probably true. Depending on the time scale, you know, it can maybe be 50 years, it can be 200 years, I don't know. But people kind of assume that
30 years is what they're saying.
Yeah, but they say a lot of shit. So the idea that I have that is kind of baffling, why people haven't brought this up, is that like people think that racial tensions are just going to kind of continue in the current paradigm into that change, as if there's not going to be some sort of dramatic change along with the minority majority change. So when you have major shifts in demographics, you typically don't carry the same principles that you have going into that change. You will kind of have some bleed over, obviously, but you're going to have people that are in white identitarian groups. You're going to have people that are mixed race. You're going to have people that are in minority groups that become the majority, and they won't even know they became the majority, because a lot of people don't have their finger on this kind of on the pulse that we're all like talking about right now, and nothing will really fundamentally change. Just like when that number ticks over, it's not like, oh, all of a sudden we're in charge now. And furthermore, I think that people will have a very different understanding of race by the time that comes around. Even think about how much our idea of race has changed even in the last 30 years, if we use that 30 years number. So I don't think it's anything that I can make a very strong opinion on whether or not they're going to be treated poorly. But I will say that just because white people might become a smaller number statistically doesn't take them out of positions of power, doesn't take them out of the large stranglehold they have on, you know, capital in the country. It doesn't take them out of a lot of, you know, hierarchical positions that they currently inhabit, even if they become a smaller number. Rich people are a very small number compared to poor people, but they don't get beaten the fuck up all the time, and it's different, obviously.
Wait, I want to hear what he just said. Wait, hold on. I just have a because I kind of like was hearing something else. Did you say rich people are the minority, so they don't get beaten up? Is that what you said?
I'm saying like someone could be a very small portion of a population, but depending on the way people and
people just know automatically who is rich and who is poor just by like in a group.
Well, you wouldn't really know who's white and who's not in a group either, because there's a lot of mixed. No, because there's a lot of mixed race people. Would you say Obama's black?
Yeah.
Yeah. But why is that?
We're not looking at like the 23andMe version of it. It's like what your eyes are seeing. Like, I mean, like that's what you're gonna like, look at.
But the thing is, you wouldn't know that. Yeah. So I get what you're saying. I guess if you're thinking along the lines of people are going to just treat people based off of their skin color, but people look into it a lot deeper than that if they're going to have actual racial animosity. Real racial animosity is a much deeper concept.
Something though. Can I interject with something?
Yeah, sure.
Because see, here's the thing. You are bringing up somewhat of a good point, but here's where it gets to be. Here's where I have to break through it, because yes, racial animosity is going to happen with the broader population, but it does. But the 1% or the richer class of people that live in like gated communities and in their own little tiny little ethno states within those, or they're like mansions and stuff. They're the ones that don't have to suffer through all this stuff. So like, say if we have like unfettered immigration and then there's like racial tension, that's only fucking over like the working class and the poor. That's not fucking over like the people that live in those communities that don't have to be around minorities. And that's why a lot of people, in this country,
I mean, I'd like to respond to the whole like, even if white people are a minority thing, it won't make a difference. Hey, thank you for having me, by the way. Brittany, just love you. Todd sent me the link. Todd was like, Dingo, you and I are friends now. I need you on this show. I'm like, you know what, Black Todd? You got it, buddy. I'll be there.
Thank you, White Dingo.
High yellow. Okay, there's a high yellow.
God.
High yellow
There's
top.
JQers people. There's JQers in chat. Like, oh, those rich white people aren't actually white. Oh, God.
Yeah, but like the thing is, you said it won't even be a difference or whatever. It's going to be a huge difference, an absolutely huge difference in crime. And you say that like they still have the capital. There are all kind of different academic and government policies right now pushing to displace white people out of the workforce, integrate neighborhoods at the point of a gun, all this good stuff. But let's just look at crime, just crime. I mean, look how much crime has risen in England and other places in Europe since brown people from where the fuck ever, Middle East, Africa, whatever, have come in and started rape gangs, started moving drugs in, and there's still a super majority in a lot of those countries. And white victimization has gone through the roof. I mean, some Middle Eastern people cut up some white girl and served her in a kebab shop. I mean, this stuff goes on and on. We're talking about 9 to 13,000 girls raped in Rotherham just alone. Like this stuff is right in front of our faces every day. So I don't know how you can say it's not going to change anything. People hate white people because they're brainwashed to do so. Every institution in the country tells people to hate whitey. Black people, you should hate whitey because they enslaved your papaw. Fucking Mexicans, you should hate whitey because this used to be Mexico. How could you think that they're going to not fuck us over when we're a majority?
We don't say papaw, Mr.
Just so you
Dingo.
know,
Brittany,
I say papaw.
Just so you know, crime rates have not risen.
One at a time.
Crime rates have not risen.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there that's just like not verifiable. Like the idea that the crime rate is like massively changed in the UK. It's gone.
Yeah, so let's go to little Timmy first because I feel like little Timmy should have freaking first say. Go ahead, little Timmy.
Yeah, so the annual change from 2016 to 2017, there was a 20% increase from 2016, and then there was only a 0.86% change to 2017, and then a point.
Where?
What do you mean where?
Where
in the UK, where you said.
And you're starting at the year 2016?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, why don't you go back to the year 2000, maybe the year 1990, whenever it was hardly any.
Oh, you mean where there was a global crime increase? Yeah, you're going to see a crime increase in one country when you see it globally. That's going to happen. We still don't really know why that happened.
Every white country got flooded.
No, that was
around
global.
The same time. Yeah,
you know
that's what I just
means?
said.
White countries are not the globe. I know that might be how you think about.
Earth is flat, you stupid fuck. There is no globe.
Well, it's hollow, first of all. So you're on the wrong track there.
Yeah, just like your fucking head.
So there was a massive crime increase.
Listen to how you're worming out of this. Like, oh, well, there was a crime increase everywhere. That has nothing to do with what I just said. Compare
it does,
the country
because if you're looking at
no, let me just finish this one thing. Compare the country itself, not the fucking world. Compare the country itself to whenever there was a huge difference in demographics. I mean, don't go 2016 to 2017. They had been well established there already.
Yeah. So the reason why we don't look at the 90s as like a bastion for like specific countries having a large crime increase is because it was happening everywhere, and we still have no idea why. There are different factors. Immigration can be a big one, but there are a lot of countries that immigration was not a factor in, where violent crime specifically was rising everywhere. It was basically an epidemic.
Give me aggregate numbers. Give me aggregate numbers, not percentages. Give me aggregate numbers of rapes, murders, violent.
That's not going to change the fact that all these things were rising globally.
No. You don't want to look because you know what you'll find.
I can see the increase. It doesn't matter if the number goes up in percentage or if it goes up.
If it goes from 1 to 2, is that 100% increase? But then if it goes to from 90 to 1,000,
this is totally irrelevant to the fact that it was happening globally. When you,
it depends on why. It's a global reason. It's probably not because immigration increased, because you can't have global.
No, you haven't proven shit. You just said that.
It can be. It can be a factor. It can be It can be a factor.
All you did was say it went up. I don't believe you.
Do you not know about the massive crime increase that happened globally in the 90s? Is that something you're unaware of? I feel like if you're talking about crime increases in specific countries, you should know about the big fucking crime increase that happened. Though. It's not an abstraction. It's zooming out to get a better picture of what's going on.
You haven't said
if you zoom all the way in.
Why don't you tell us about it then? Give us some numbers. Maybe a link we could fucking look at it instead of take your word for it. Because so far, I think you're a fucking liar.
Jeez.
All right, global crime increase. Let's see.
Yeah, let's get the empirical
See what you find
data.
there, Dexter.
I like how hostile you are about it.
You look like a Dexter. There's nothing wrong with any Dexter, but you look like a Dexter.
Okay, I'm gonna have.
I'm pretty
to agree
gaunt.
with him.
That's fair.
You look more like a Dexter than a Timmy.
Increase between the late 1950s and the early 1990s. This is about a crime drop that happened after the 90s.
Can you drop it in the private chat?
Yeah, it's Wikipedia, so I'm trying to get the source from it. I don't think
Wikipedia's okay, but I wouldn't consider it the most authoritative source.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to like the root.
But thankfully, you're not like bashing anyone in the head about it like Faust does.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff is more of an art than a science. So,
Faust loves horse penises. Did you guys hear him talk about those that time?
Yeah, he's a degenerate piece of shit, and I don't.
He's like, I just love a big old hard horse cock. I think is what he said, something like that. How could you not love it?
I'd just love it if someone like him never existed.
Nobody clipped that, by the way. That would be horrible if you clipped that.
Brett, I'm gonna go to bed.
All right, Dylan. Good night.
I just want to say one thing before I go.
What?
I don't know why it's so difficult for people to understand the point. Racism, descriptively, yeah, gonna exist. Prescriptively, it bad. That is the point. That is all there is to it. Holy fucking shit.
All right.
Good night.
Worker co-op.
Night.
Bless you
co-op,
all.
Mondragon.
Mondragon, Worker Cooperative, Bingo card. Good night,
Bingo,
friends
do you
and
actually
family.
think the world is flat?
No, dude, it was a joke.
It's hollow.
It's a joke.
Oh, nihilist.
Okay.
Is Dylan frozen?
No, I'm just waiting to fucking.
I'll just kick him out. Bye.
Bye. Go to bed.
All right. He's flipped me off, little shit.
Is he young? Is that a young guy?
Yeah, he just turned 17.
Oh shit! Really? Okay, that's really young.
By the way, sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Hi, welcome.
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, we can hear you.
Wait, I'm gonna fuck off as well. So, yeah.
Well,
Fuck off,
now we're leaving
nihilist.
people a little bit outnumbered here, so I
Yeah,
guess
so
we can have like 2 more libs if you guys are in chat.
libs.
I am back.
What?
Sorry.
We're not libs. We're
Oh,
leftists.
shut up.